All right, everyone. All right, we're calling to order February 7th, 2022, East Ascension Drainage District Number 1 meeting. Roll call. Ms. Secretary, please note that Mr. Ogeron and Mr. Mason are absent. We're going to move on to our invocation led by Mr. Cagnolotti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Heavenly Father, we thank you for letting us gather here tonight to address the needs of drainage for our citizens. We ask your blessings on all of this board, parish president, the parish council in whole, and every employee for the parish that works hard to protect our citizens from flooding. Please bless us and guide us in all our actions, and may your Holy Spirit be with us at all times, for we place our lives in your hands, always and forever. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to item number 3, public comment periods. Please, anyone from the public, if there's any agenda item you would like to speak on, please come see Ms. Daigle, and she will help y'all get a card filled out. Let's see, item number 4, acceptance of minutes from January 10th, 2022 meeting. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Ms. Casso, a second by Mr. Cagnolotti. Any objection? Hearing none, motion passes. On item 5, the chairman's report announcement. Look, and this is just a little small change. On agenda item 7A, it says approval to move forward with program management of all capital projects. I believe this is going to take unanimous. I would like to change that approval to move forward with RFQ for program management of all capital projects. That'll allow administration to go out, get the RFQ, and they'll bring it back to us for final approval.
So moved.
Okay. I have a motion by Mr. Lawler, a second by Ms. Casso. Any objections to that? Hearing none, that passes for agenda item 7A. Okay, I have no other reports or announcements. We're going to move on to item 6A. And so what we have tonight, I'm sure everyone can see, including Mr. Jarius and Mr. O'Day, who are not happy. We have a lot of presentations tonight. So what we want to do, starting here, is once a quarter, we want to give some nice, quick updates on all the capital projects we have going on throughout the parish. So we've asked all our engineer consulting firms here tonight just to give a quick little 3, 4, 5 minute presentation on the project that they are working on. And that way, if everyone has a certain question about a project in their area, the district, now would be the time to ask that. So first up, I'm going to ask Mr. Jared Masso with Hartman.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Can I ask ahead of that while I'm thinking about it, because y'all know I'm old and my memory gets bad. We were discussing in the previous meeting adding more information about contracts that are open, how much they've been charged. Mm-hmm. Could we add that to our drainage report as well? For drainage
Can you
contracts?
specify, Ms. Casso?
Pardon?
What are you asking for?
I would like to add a report to drainage that is similar to the one being provided in finance relative to contracts, so that we can see what contracts we have open and how much has been charged in those contracts.
I understand. Yep.
Thank you.
Sure, I'll make note of that. Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Parish President.
Yeah, to address Board Member Casso's, I think that's going to be in the program management. We should get actual numbers and all different kind of charts and graphs on every capital project, including how much the project costs, what we spent up to date, what's open, what's available. And so I think that's going to be one of those items in the RFQ. So they're going to keep up and give us those presentations monthly with those charts up to date with amounts, progress, steps, phases, where the funding comes from, and I think completely what you're asking for. So I think that's going to be in that RFQ for that program management.
No need for redundancy, certainly.
Okay, it'll be very similar to what and to what Mr. Monzon does with us every month with the
Very
FMP. Mr. Wagasback, you got a question, comment?
I was just going to add to that. I think that's kind of an intention in finance. So what we can just do is make sure that we break out the ones that are associated with drainage. We can do it that way. So we'll talk about it. We'll discuss it.
All right. Everyone good? All right, Mr. Monso, you were up.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, board members and administration. 4 projects we're going to discuss real quick. Villas at Galvez, Crawford Road, Highway 74, Bluff Swamp improvements, and Shadows at Manchac. Villas at Galvez, concrete lining. Scope of work is to prepare plans and specs to construct approximately 300 linear feet of concrete lining. A model, HECRAS model, will be utilized to size the channel for an approximate 25-year design storm pending the drainage servitude. Our notice to proceed, survey NTP was 10/20/21. Survey is currently complete.
Mr. Monso, can you go back one slide, please?
Okay. Now I can't control the slides. Oh, okay. Which one? Gotcha. There we go.
There you go.
Okay. Okay. All right, so what's circled is where we're gonna concrete line the channel. And Villas of Galvez ties into Marty Burat. So that's the channel that we're gonna model. Okay. Okay. Our survey is complete. Modeling is currently in progress, and we're coordinating with HNTB. And our lateral ties into the Henderson Bayou watershed. So we're coordinating with HNTB. They're not 100% finalized, so we need their water surface elevations to complete our model. And what we're going to do is once we're finished with the model, then we're going to hand it over to HNTB, and it's going to be a part of the model. Schedule, it's pending, when we can get the information from HNTB, but we're hoping, again, this is just rough estimates, but we're hoping to advertise this project sometime in August. So complete plans and specs, middle of the summer. Construction we're expecting roughly 2 months. 2 months of construction. Okay. Crawford Road drainage.
We have a
Questions?
question. I'm sorry. I had my presentation screen on, so I wasn't.
No problem.
Go ahead, Ms. Kathleen.
Jared, thank you so much. When we went to Houston, one of the things that the gentleman said to us was that lining a ditch with concrete ought to be a last resort. So have all the other options for fixing this problem been investigated and ruled out?
This particular scenario is where it's in between 2 houses, so it's more of a maintenance issue versus a hydraulic issue. So what we're going to do is we're going to run a model of what the existing channel can hold and with an improved channel, a 25-year storm, 50-year storm, and a 100-year storm. So we're going to have sections, and we're going to run it through, and we're going to put that concrete section in there and see the impacts. And again, a 100-year storm, the section is going to be real wide. So obviously we're going to have to shrink it, and hopefully we can fit a 25-year storm within our servitude, within the houses. So that's the main thing, it's more of a maintenance issue than anything.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Lawler.
Yes, Mr. Monson, and this is more of a, not a philosophical question, informational question. We're talking about 25-year, and not specific to this project here, and we're talking about 50 and 100. I'd be curious to learn in the future what the cost difference is between, if we were to do this project as a 25-year project versus if we were to do it as a 50. Now, in this case, it sounds like it's a really bad example because we've got two houses, so maybe it's not feasible in this case. But maybe in some others, it's just a knowledge question for me. I want to gain the knowledge of what is the real actual dollars cost difference, because I look at when we put culverts in, and I don't know if there's a real big difference in cost between putting an 18-inch culvert and a 24-inch culvert and how much of a drainage benefit we get.
Yeah, that is a very difficult question.
Yes, so that's why it is not for now to be answered,
Yeah.
but maybe we can talk about it later.
Well, I mean, when you throw in servitude, I mean, that's right away is, it's very expensive. So that's hard to put a number on that.
Maybe I'm just thinking more too of the construction cost. If
Yeah,
there's
I
a
mean,
big
I guess we can do something, but again, it's what's the existing shape of the channel, how wide you need to, so there's a lot of factors involved.
My concern is that we're building at 25-year standards, which, sounds pretty good, but it seems that we're getting more and more of those storms. And you're just the first person up here.
Yeah.
That's why you're getting this question. The rest of y'all, it's the same question. But I just get concerned that, I think we've realized that a 10-year standard is not enough. And my question is 25 enough? And is 25 enough for 10 years from now? Because we don't want to go redoing this again.
Correct.
But we can think about that later on.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting a quick answer.
Well, it's going to be very difficult to get anything above a 25-year storm, meaning staying within the footprint. Even then, I still think, a lot of areas you're going to have to acquire servitude.
So we may have to do that. It's probably what we're going to have to do.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What we're trying to do also is make this a acceleration point. Met with the parish president, quite a few people that, the upper end here, the water's just sitting. We need something to carry the water out between these two structures that you're talking about. And getting back to servitude, it's quite a few things that have been built and different things that, it holds our workers back from getting into this area. So with this concrete lining, it's going to take the maintenance headache out and hopefully speed the water up. Mm-hmm. Getting it on down the channel is what we're hoping. Thank you.
All right, you can proceed there, Mr. Monson.
Okay, Crawford Road drainage. You can see the big circle and the smaller circle. You have Black Bayou Road. The bigger circle is where the issue is. It's hard to get the water from north to south. So that's what this project entails. We just recently had our scoping meeting, and I think we've all agreed on a path forward. Surveying is in progress. And then shortly after the survey, once we have, some elevations, then we can start getting into the nuts and bolts of the hydraulics. Again, we're gonna model whatever improvements that we have, 25, 50, and 100-year cross drain. And just an FYI on the the housekeeping projects that I'm working on with the parish. We're sizing all our culverts. We decided to go with a 100-year storm. And we're also looking at tailwater elevations, but not to bog y'all down, but that's the parish, I think, is making the right step in that regard. Everything, any cross drains, any side drains, it's all 100-year storm, so. So we are looking to, once we get the survey, we're expecting a survey end of the month, and we're hoping to finalize design midsummer. Not design, I'm sorry, the report, the end of August. That's what we're shooting for. Okay, next project, Highway 74 Bluff Swamp drainage improvements. This is to provide an alternate flood mitigation measure in the Bluff Swamp Drainage Basin, which includes a water management and operational plan. Current progress, we submitted a DOTD permit and a core permit. We didn't actually do the core permit. That was ELOS. That was during the emergency situation, and that has all kind of been put on hold with the exception of the emergency permit. We did resubmit to DOTD a larger scale project. Kind of that's what this project is evolving to. You can see line item B. Highway 74 Bluff Swamp drainage improvements incorporated into the New River Pump to the River concept. The New River Pump to the River concept conceptual report was submitted to PLD to be included in the overall Bayou Manchac regional drainage plan. Of the upcoming milestones, so essentially, the 74 crossing is on hold with the exception of the emergency project, which is smaller culverts in relation to our overall plan. So getting back to the New River Pump to River report, our anticipated milestones through the PLD. Our anticipated milestones through the PLD, the next step would be a detailed model to verify the concept and construction costs. And this is just, a 4-page snippet of the report. I believe in the agenda packet, y'all had the entire report. So the Pump to River, the New River Pump to River plan, it entails what I envision is immediate benefit and long-term benefits. The immediate benefits would be to give some Bluff Swamp some relief, take some of that water out of Bluff and pump it to the river. Same thing with New River. So you're looking at two different basins. So there's a lot of benefit to that. And the long-term benefit, which, it's really not being talked about. If you see this highlighted sentence at the end on sheet 4 or 5, 50-year projections of Maurepas swamp levels with respect to 2 feet sea level rise with compounding effects of frequent high-intensity rain events present significant reasons for prudency in removing water from the local Maurepas watersheds. So what that, in this next slide, so this graph, and it's in meters, by the way, so this is the expected sea level rise in Lake Maurepas. So this table is actually was developed by CPRA, and they have included this plan into the Maurepas diversion, the freshwater diversion. So, in keeping, so this would be the long-term benefit of this project. We're taking water out of this watershed and we're putting it into the river, which is, it's huge. And that's something that we need to be given more forethought, as a parish and, as an engineering community, how can we address, the issues that we're having right now.
Ms. Castle, you had a question?
Whenever you're ready for me, sir.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. I just seen your name. I'm sorry.
This is probably as good a time as any,
Go
if
ahead.
you'd like. So, Jared, you spent some time with me today on this project, and I thank you very much for your time. I realized I texted you on Sunday while you were in Mass, and you called me back. So thank you for that. nobody could be more excited about a project of this nature than me. But nobody recognizes any more than I do that we're at a unique time in history to get this to happen. We have the resources through the Louisiana Watershed Initiative to have this kind of impact. And so I want us to, Mr. President, to do everything humanly possible to make this happen. But I do want to make sure that we are considering sea level rise at the level that it is projected to be. And I'm wondering, I hear about models that are being made. All of us are working together at the same time here. We've got HNTB working. We have a CSRS report that I'm holding in my hand. And we have you. All of us are in this building at the same time. Let's make sure, gentlemen, that we do not underestimate what that rise will be and base our data and our modeling on an underestimated number and the wonderful legacy that we could leave the Bluff Swamp from this tremendous amount of money being spent at this very unique time in history is completely lost if 50 years from now they have water in their houses again after we've done it all. And what could happen, I think, if we underestimate that sea level rise is that. So I'm very concerned about that. I've heard about it from several folks. And while you're all in the room, I want you to know it's important that we get this right, whatever it costs to make the models right. Let's see, what else did I have? You did explain to me, right now our permit for going under the road at 74 is on hold.
Correct.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about, as you did on the phone today for the benefit of everyone else, about what those smaller pipes that are all existing and will be left there, how they function, if you will, please.
Okay, this is an actual permit that we submitted to DOTD, and you'll see an existing 36-inch RCP cross drain. Essentially, what this pipe serves is it's an equalizer pipe. So depending on where the water level is, it might be high in Morgan Swamp and it'll drain back into Bluff and vice versa. So that pipe won't, it'll stay in place. It's not going to be removed. So, in those drainage patterns won't change with this project, with the exception of adding, the new box culverts.
But we can't expect to alleviate the problem of water being on the road, right?
Well, this is the whole plan, is to get the water off of Bluff Road, Highway 74. I mean, we want to keep it low enough to where it won't even come close. That's the intention.
That's
correct.
Exactly. So we're going to have an operations plan. If you'll go into some of that with this body, because we had a lot of discussion whenever that initial emergency operation took place. We had a challenge around a culvert being blocked off, water started rising in an unexpected location. It was quickly mitigated, and for that we're all grateful. But it proved, I believe, that an operations plan is very important to this project. And not only there, but at the existing 36-inch pipe. So, and the President and I have talked about this many times. I'm sure he can weigh in. But I'm concerned about the operations plan and making very sure that, my concern is always about those folks in the Bluff Swamp. And the last thing I want to see happen is water from New River running back to them. That would be a disaster of unbelievable proportion, because they've already been in the water enough. And we have, beyond the concern about the operations plan and the existence of flap gates or whatever you're going to share with us will be there, I have the concern about my folks who share our border with Travis's district that runs along New River, and all that, those folks are concerned about how much water we're going to put out of one area into theirs. So if you would spend a little time with us on the operations plan, I would appreciate it.
So the operational plan that we developed, it was just for that crossing at 74. You know, there's going to be an entirely different operational plan whenever, you know, if and when the pump to the river comes on board. And that's not included in your packet. What is included is our operational procedure plan that we developed in conjunction with Ron and Clint. So we have triggers. So do y'all have the attachment with y'all? No? Attachment D? That was in the agenda packet?
Yeah,
That was
you
the
have
full conceptual report? So attachment D, so essentially what we'll have is a checklist. If Bluff Swamp meets a certain elevation, New River meets a certain elevation, they meet those criteria, then we'll check them off, have everybody sign off on it, and go ahead and, close the gate, open the gate, or whatever.
Well, and I want the folks in the Bluff Swamp to know that we're not going to automatically be able to open that gate, that we're
correct.
going to have to choose, and if New River is too high, we just will not be able to.
That's correct.
Although they might get some benefit, and that's sad, and it's hard to explain to folks, but it's the reality. And so we're going to need to be clear about that operations plan, and hopefully we'll be very clear when it's in place. And I would think with the kind of transparency we have the potential for, that we ought to be able to see what the water levels are on New River and have the folks in the Bluff Swamp understand that it just can't be open right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just can't. And, rather than have them upset because we have the opportunity to flip this relief valve that we can't take advantage of.
Which is, not trying to get off subject, but which is very important to purchase these rain gauges.
Mm-hmm.
This is a perfect example. You could put one in the swamp right there on New River. I mean, you put it easy access. I mean, it's, but anyway, that's basically what our operational plan entails.
Hang on one second, Mr. Monson. I believe the parish president had a comment as well.
Yeah, so with the 74, I know that we had talked about moving forward. I would like to move forward with the 6x6 going under 74. What you're going to find when the pumping station and larger project takes place, you're going to need a much larger structure under 74. But what that 6x6 allows us to do is, when the cut will always be sealed off from New River until it warrants, just like any other, when you start to get elevation 7 in the Bluff Swamp or Spanish Lake Basin, then we'll start to have the conversations on drawing down, opening up the gate valves in New River, drawing it down almost to drought-like conditions, and then removing opening the cut, and then opening the 6x6 and allowing to start reducing the water before we hit peak elevations such as 10, 11, and they're asking for immediate relief, which is pumps. So I would like to continue with this board's approval on the 6x6 and installing it in 7 until this larger project, which is, in my estimation, between 80 and 100 million, takes place, which will consider at least on a fast track 6 years minimum, 10 years likely, that we have an option here for not only the Bluff Swamp people, but also for all of Dutchtown that drains into that and uses it as a reservoir. And so I would like to move forward. I, to be honest, didn't know it was put on hold. I thought we were continuing with the permitting and then we would look at the construction costs and come back to the board with that information. So I'd like to put this on the next agenda to have a full discussion and moving forward with that 6x6 under 74 and an operations plan.
I'll second that.
That's my comment, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, Ms. Monson, you can continue.
Okay, Shadows at Manchac, Phase 1 subsurface drainage improvements. You can see the aerial view. We have the Phase 1 and Phase 2, if y'all recall. Phase 1 is in green. Phase 2 is in purple. We're proceeding with Phase 1. Scope of work, prepare plans and specs to increase the subsurface hydraulic capacity of the southern end of Shadows and Manchac subdivision. We received our NTP for surveying. Our surveying is currently in progress. Our design, we're shooting for design middle of 100% design middle of the summer. Let's say June, hopefully advertise in August. And obviously our fee proposal is on the agenda as well. Hopefully it'll get approved. But that's it. That's all I have.
Any more questions for Mr. Monson? All right, you're done.
I'll call you next Sunday.
Huh?
Yeah. And hunting season's over. You can call him on the weekend now.
That's right.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to tell everybody that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jared. Appreciate
Thank
it.
y'all.
So next up, we have McKim and Creed. I told Ms. Kimberly we're gonna work on a good acronym for them. And I also do want to acknowledge we have some friends in the back from Pontchartrain Levee District. Thank y'all for joining and coming to support us tonight.
Good evening.
Ms. Cole?
You stole my line. I was going to introduce them.
Oh.
We have Executive Director Monica Gorman and Legal Counsel Dwight Poirier. So we certainly appreciate all the work that they're doing for Ascension Parish. And I know you emphasized quick, so I'll try my best to blow through these slides as quickly as possible. I know Lowell Ridge isn't on the agenda, but I'll give a quick update. As everyone's familiar with the project, it's a 4.5-mile levee extension to protect an additional 8,500 structures within the Santa Ma area. Just to give a brief history of the project, this project was first recommended in the mid-'80s in the Floodplain. It was deemed too expensive in 2004. It was a much longer route that went around the wetlands instead of through them and required several pump stations. We got the project through Pontchartrain Levee District in 2008 and changed the concept of the project, routing it through the wetlands and allowing for passive drainage of the system. We applied for permitting in 2014. Permitting took 4 years, and when we finally received our permit, there was an injunction filed on the project. So with the help of all the state offices essentially in Louisiana, we were able to move forward with this project, and the injunction was dropped in 2021. So this is the model results of the structures impacted. All the dots on this exhibit are the 8,500 structures that see benefit from the project. So this is, again, mostly within the Santa Ma area. It does, however, affect districts 2, 6, 9, and 10, so lots of impact. And just to give a budgetary update, to date, PLD has spent around $9 million, and that's for design, wetland mitigation, permitting, environmental assessment, right-of-way acquisition, and then East Ascension Drainage is going to pay for the $24 million construction cost. Schedule update. They're currently in right-of-way acquisition. Pontchartrain Levee District is handling that in-house. Once that is complete, we'll need a couple of weeks to refine the plans just to incorporate any changes that come up as a result of negotiation with the 47 tracks. And then we will do a 2-month bidding phase and 2-year construction phase. Fish Bayou. So the scope for this project, as everyone's familiar with, is two 12 by 12 box culverts constructed under Alligator Bayou at the old Fish Bayou connection that restores flow between Bluff Swamp and Bayou Manchac. History of this project, not quite as long as Laurel Ridge Levee Extension. PLD started working on the Amite River and tributary study in 2005. The Bayou Manchac component was recommended in 2012, which recommended the Frog Bayou and Alligator Bayou upgrades. We started working on the project in 2014, and then in 2016, the project location was changed from upgrading Frog Bayou structures to moving them to the old Fish Bayou confluence. We submitted for permitting in 2018, and because we were able to utilize the parish's 214 agreement, that process was a lot quicker. So we got our permit in 2019. We finalized purchasing of right-of-way in 2020, bid in 2021, and started in 2021. So schedule update, it was bid in May. As everyone is aware, there was a big flood in May, which delayed the start of construction until after floodwaters receded. So the contractor did start around the time of Hurricane Ida. The project is projected to complete in the end of June of this year. These are some aerial shots. The first one was taken immediately following Hurricane Ida, and the second one was taken a couple weeks ago. This is a different view of inside the excavated area. They did begin pouring the cutoff walls of the foundation a couple weeks ago. They're continuing to do concrete pours as weather permits. This project affects districts 4 and 8, and PLD has contributed $1 million to date, and the parish's component is $2.5 million. LA 22 gapping project. So this project is to construct 2 bridges through the existing LA 22 near the Amite River Diversion Canal. The project received full funding through the Louisiana Watershed Initiative through PLD's efforts. This exhibit shows the impact of the project from the model. So the yellow and orange red area shows increase in water surface elevation, and the shades of green show decrease in water surface elevation from the project. So the areas that have increased are all floodplain swamplands that currently are drying out because they don't have routine flooding. So this project is a huge benefit to a large swamp, McElroy Swamp. We started working on this project as a result of the 2016 floods with Senator Eddie Lambert. We then began modeling this project as a mitigation project for the Laurel Ridge Levee Extension. And then in 2021, it was one of the first projects announced as funded through Louisiana Watershed Initiative. And it impacts districts 2, 6, 9, 10, and 11. So great impact for a lot of different areas. Last project is Rondo Place drainage improvements. We received our survey for this project in the middle of January. After we reviewed the survey information, we were able to determine that there's a culvert on Eric Drive that is partially crushed and undersized. So to answer your question, I modeled it to a 25 and 50 year. It was the same culvert size, so we're gonna go with that one. I can look into 100 year. I know it's at 24 inch right now, so I would suspect it'd be a 30 inch, 36 maybe, with a 100-year event. So our first recommendation is obviously to replace that structure for immediate relief. And in the meantime, we're looking into 2 alternatives for reestablishing connection to Henderson Bayou through Eric Drive. So we're gonna pull together those 2 alternatives and sit down with parish administration and present them. And then hopefully next month we'll have one picked and we can start working on a plan set for DBW to go out and do some work.
Yeah, Mr. Lawler.
I guess that's a better example than what I asked Mr. Monso about the cost differences between a 24-inch culvert and a 30 or 36-inch culvert. Basically, I'm just curious, because I don't think we'd be buying any right-of-way for that. We'd just be replacing a culvert, so it's mainly materials cost and installation cost. When you get a chance, I'd just like to find out what the difference in cost is.
Okay, it's very minimal, obviously, because it's a really small section of pipe.
Yeah.
And it's a culvert, so yeah, I can get you that.
And my simple thought on it is that, man, if the cost is really, really minimal, maybe we do 100 on a lot of these projects all over, so we don't come back years from now having to do, do this again. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Dempsey.
Yeah. I know we had talked about a percentage of what you're gonna put in Henderson Bayou. I mean, that's our break point from Henderson, or it can go back into Black Bayou. What I'd like to know when we get back with the administration, what percentage we're gonna put in Henderson.
Okay,
We already have capacity levels there, so I wanna make sure what we're putting in it.
and one of the alternatives does address that, so I'll be sure to present it when we go over alternatives.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cole. All right, next up, we have Mr. H. Davis Cole. He's going to talk about our New River dredging project and the new tilting weir.
All right, thank you, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Let me find mine up here somewhere. Here we go. I'm gonna be quick as well. I'll try to be anyway. The first project is construction of the New River dredging project. We have a contractor finally, after much work. It's Boone Services LLC. Their notice to proceed was issued on December the 12th. It's a one-year contract, so they have until December the 12th, 2022 to finish the work. It includes 18,000 acres in Ascension Parish, and it's 27.5 square miles as far as what's affected with the project. Next slide is the schedule we received from Boone. Do I do that? Who does that?
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
There you go, I believe that.
All right. Well, that shows the council districts and, the acreage and whatnot. I think everybody's seen that map. So we had a mobilization date of Friday, 2/4 of 22. I can report that they've done some layout work. They've mobilized a little bit of equipment at the site. The date of starting actual drainage excavation is, let's see, Wednesday the 9th. So that would be tomorrow. No, 2 days from now. We'll see. My inspector reports that they're on track. He'll be there and they're ready to get moving. So I know it's been a long time coming, but it looks like so far, I've met with them several times at their office. They're right in Baton Rouge. They seem to be on top of things as far as they're just maybe a little bit slow getting started because they're trying to get all their ducks in a row, especially when it comes to the spoil sites. They have had a little bit of issue getting spoil sites that apply, that are compliant with the no-fill ordinance. So they're working around that. Some of the fill may go to their, actually, they have a huge yard right in East Baton Rouge Parish. It might actually be in Ascension Parish, right on the line off of, dang. It's right on the Ascension line near like Mallard Estates and all that area. So any questions on that one?
I'm not seeing any.
Nope, okay. Moving on to the tilting weir, we're about 75% done with the design. We let loose on, we got approval on the survey and the geotech today. They'll be out, the surveyor will be out there on Wednesday. We just need a little bit of topographic survey to get everything tied in. The structure will be just downstream of the existing Walmart weir, so we can build it without impacting the existing project. I'm anticipating having plans and specs ready by June, and then we can bid it anytime the parish, wishes to go ahead and bid that. So I really don't anticipate any sort of conflict at all whatsoever with the existing contractor in building this project.
All right, I have
So,
Mr. Wagaspack has a question.
Yeah, I just, as far as the design of the weir, is it gonna be fully manual, or is it gonna have some automation? Did we decide which way we're going?
there will be motor operators on the weirs themselves, and they will be set up for SCADA operation in the future, should the parish wish to do that. That technology's it's evolved so much that it's cheap to set up a control panel to be ready for that. And then once the parish wants to go that direction with SCADA, then it's easily integratable. Even 10 years ago, or especially 30 years ago when I got started, I mean, there were all kind of different technologies and you really had to set on one. Now it's the source code's so open, you can pretty much put anything in and most people can work with it. So yes, it'll be SCADA ready.
So as far as motor, so it won't be a gate valve, it'll be something.
No. It'll be
motorized,
motor operated.
But it'll be
yes.
upgradable.
These are big, heavy gates that are going in.
thought so.
You'll need a motor. Now, you will have the ability to manually operate it. I wouldn't want to.
But again, it will be able to
Yes.
tie it into automation later.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Right.
Mr. Cagnolati.
Yeah, just real quick, Davis, thank you. This has been a long time coming, I know.
Absolutely.
But on the tilt weir structure, that's, what's the ballpark budget? I know you're going out
1.5
for
million is
bids.
what we had on that one.
Okay.
Well, hang on. I keep
That's
forgetting
all.
to switch the slide. All right.
Good.
All right. That was it.
Uh,
Next one's
Mr.
just some examples of plans that,
Mr. Parish President, you had question,
around.
comment?
Yes, this is one of those projects that has dual effect. This one, if we need to draw down or take water from Spanish Lake, this tilt-a-weir structure will allow us to go drought-like conditions and an incredible fast timeline. Even with the gate valves in place, this new tilt wheel system in conjunction with that will help us deal with flash flooding in Bayou Goudin, the 3 branches of Goudin, as well as New River in every district that is affected by it. So this is a monumental project, and it's just a monumental tool in our arsenal to help against flash flooding and the issues that we've been experiencing, but record amount of rainfall lately. So
Yeah,
I just
when-
wanted to note the importance of this and how it has a dual function and ties into other projects that will benefit from this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When you drop these gates, the water's going to come quickly,
Quickly.
very quickly, yeah.
Mr. Lawler.
Davis, can you show me how it works?
Let's see. There's a plan there that kind of shows it. It's really simple. It's basically a gate, and it tilts up and down, just like that.
Thank you.
And the water comes over the top. So, I mean, it's about as simple as it gets. I love the technology because there's really not a whole lot to it. There's two, if you look at the screen, there's two cables that tie to a motor that, when the motor winds up, it's like a pulley system. It pulls the gate up, and when the motor winds down, it pulls it down. I mean, there's not a whole lot to break or maintain or anything. It's just back and forth. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you got it.
Okay, any more questions, comments from Mr. Cole? No?
All right.
All right, thank you very much for the update.
Thank you.
All right, I see Mr. Monzon patiently waiting with HNTB.
We got, all right. Good evening. So I'm going to give you an update on the floodplain management plan. Most of you already, you've seen this, we are on an 18-month schedule. We're working on 4 tasks, task 2, 4, 5, and 6, which is data collection, the flood hazard assessment. We're identifying problems and risk mitigation strategies, and finally putting the flood management plan in place. This is the Gantt chart. This is where we are. We are still on schedule to deliver the project in 18 months. Most of our tasks are within the where we are right now in January and February. We're either working on those tasks or have begun. And if you look to the left, the ones that are 100% complete, those are tasks that have been done. Any questions on the Gantt chart? I'll move on. Okay. This is some of the data collection and acquisition. The first map. This is the data collection and acquisition that was performed by CSRS. All of that has been completed in the Manchac, Henderson, Marvinborough, and Bayou Conway Basin, with the exception of 3 locations that are currently inaccessible, but they're not critical. We'll go back and get them. That's not going to keep us from moving on with the modeling. We also did some additional survey, picked up some at Magnolia Oaks Drive and Perkins Road. The next slide includes the survey that's been completed. So this incorporates the survey that was picked up by CSRS and the Dewberry effort. It's Tablada doing a survey work for Dewberry on the LWI effort. You can see a lot of that's green with the exception of a couple of red dots. Those red dots are either will be picked up and some of those are not part of, are not necessary for the modeling efforts, but nonetheless, you'll see a lot of that has been done. We anticipate that the Fort Tablada survey effort on behalf of Dewberry will be complete by the 15th of this month. Modeling status, Bayou Manchac model is 99% complete. It's actually essentially done. We're just waiting on some comments from some of the consultants that are verifying the data that we put in. Henderson Bayou model, 80% complete. Marvin Bro Basin model, that's about 65% complete. And the Bayou Conway Panama Canal model is about 65% complete. You can see some of the bullets here that are outlined where we are. Marvin Bro, we're missing about 20 crossings, but we can begin the calibration without those. We'll pick that up as we go. We have begun to identify concern areas. We've been discussing this at the steering committee meeting. Additionally, we had meetings with some of the commissioners one-on-one. The Bayou Manchac Basin and Marvin Bro Basin, we had those discussions back in November. And then the Bayou Conway Basin and Henderson Bayou Basin, we had those discussions on the 2nd of this month. Those are early on. Those models are not complete. So we will revisit those areas that we have identified as the models come in and we get better data. Some of the additional action items that we have left to do, use the model results to strengthen or identify concern areas, use model results to assess existing structure damages, finalize the concern areas, identify proposed risk reduction solutions, model risk reduction solutions, and perform benefit cost analysis. The benefit cost analysis tool will be one that we will use to prioritize projects. And finally, finalize the 30 risk reduction projects. These are the elements that we will put into the final management plan, data collection, flood hazard assessment, and the risk mitigation strategies and projects. That concludes my, I didn't get into any of the project details. We're up to like 40 projects at this point, and I didn't want to keep you up all night. So that concludes my report.
Ms. Casso.
Thank you, John. John, I just wanted to thank you for the time you spent with us, myself and Travis and John Cagnolotti. It was very educational to be with you. We appreciate it so much. Now, you gave us the CSRS study from 2019 that you tell me you are using to determine how you model sea level rise in our projects. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay. So I want to know, does that report reflect the latest data from the coastal, CPRA? And so, and maybe the easiest thing for you to do is tell me at what rate are you modeling our sea level rise?
So on the report that you have,
Yeah. On the report I have, it's from low would be 1.41, high would be 2.72. So I don't know anything about modeling. I don't understand. Can you put in 1.41 to 2.72, or do you have to inject a finite figure in that model?
So, when it comes to sea level rise, different agencies that made an attempt at predict what that level will be. NOAA, the Corps of Engineers, CPRA. There are some assumptions that you have to make to predict that sea level rise. You have a low assumption and you have a high assumption, and that's where those numbers vary. You get on the low assumption side, you have the 1.4, I believe it is.
Yeah.
And on the high assumption, you get a
2.72.
2.73, correct. So at this point, I think, it's just fair to say that you're going to be somewhere in between. Now, one of the other things that report does indicate is that sea level rise will impact predominantly the lowest areas in Ascension Parish, and those areas which are closest to the confluence of the Amite River. Places like Galvez, those will be heavily impacted. And on a case where you have, like in 2016, where you had the backwater flooding issues, certainly everything will back up and impact the Spanish Lakes, Bayou Manchac area. That assumes that there are no gates at that location. It just assumes that water backflows towards those locations. we all obviously know, we just saw a presentation, you got new gates coming into Frog Bayou, Alligator Bayou, and all that, with the possibility of pumps further down the road. So, I mean, it's anywhere in between, you know, it's a moving target depending on climate change and everything else.
So I guess I'm back to the basic. When you inject a figure into that model, is it a specific figure or is it a range?
What we can do is, once we get the model at the end, if you want to project 50 years out, you can just add that to it. So for instance, if the particular model says we have to be at X elevation and we want to project 50 years out, we can add that 1.7 or that, the 1.4 to 2.7. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Obviously, for flood protection purposes, if you're building a levee, you want to build to that 50-year outlook and probably be on the higher end, because, you know, if your levees are supposed to withstand or take, it's more important on flood control. It's also important in drainage as well, but you have a little bit more wiggle room there because you can control some of the drainage with pumps and gates and other aspects. So we can discuss that at the end when we start looking at these projects and see where it's important to actually take that final number and add to it.
Okay. Well, if you'll just let me know, since it seems to be kind of stuck in my craw, would you just let me know what rate you're using? Because that will be of interest to me. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you a better answer at the next time we meet. At this point, I'll have to go back with my modelers to see how it is actually being put in the models. 'Cause I'm not a modeler, but we understand it a little bit.
I understand it not at all. Not at all. That's probably why I can't get this little question out of my head. So I appreciate you indulging me. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
Mr. Chair. Quick question.
Mr. Lambert.
So with the Comeek diversion project, we were looking at 6 to 8 inches at that area you were speaking about in Galvez, Port Vincent area. So up to 2 inches with the rise in sea level. Can you also put that in to see what, our main goal here is to get water back to where it's supposed to go, to the Mississippi River.
Correct.
So, our Laurel Ridge levee, all of these other things that we are trying to do, you know, we're gonna be back to square one here if we get 2 inches back to where we're trying to get this stuff reduced.
Yeah.
And, just kind of, if you could look at those numbers too.
One of the things that we're looking at is we have been waiting on the results from the Corps of Engineers to tell us what they anticipated the Comeek River diversion would drop levels by. We have some of those numbers now, and we can put it in the regional model and see how that impacts the water levels at the Amite in Ascension Parish, which basically at Manchac, which is EBR and Ascension. Yeah. So we're working through that right now.
Yeah, we might have to end up looking like with other lower end of parishes. I mean, they put gates in at the mouth at different locations. If we just have to start looking out a little bit further.
I certainly think that whatever Comeek can take out of the system will benefit areas downstream. We just don't know how much yet.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Monzon? No, see none. Thank you very much, Mr. John. All right, up next, we have Infinity Engineering. They're gonna update us on our, on the Sorrento pump station upgrades we have going on.
All right, hi. I am Cindy Gallo, project manager responsible for the Conway Bayou Drainage Project for Infinity. This is Laura Kelly, our lead mechanical on this project. I'm gonna start it off and just give y'all a quick scope, and then I'll have Laura go into a little bit more detail. We'll be quick though. So your Conway Bayou Drainage Pump Station expansion is exactly what it is. We're going to expand the pump station to double the capacity. Your existing capacity right now is 150,000 gallons per minute. We are adding 2 pumps to each with a capacity of 75,000, so we're going to double it, give you another 150,000 for a total of 300,000 GPMs. This is FEMA funded by their hazard mitigation program, and it is estimated to cost approximately $6.5 million. Couple of us involved in this design project. We are the prime engineers on this one, doing civil, structural, mechanical, and electrical design. We had Quality on board to do the survey, the H&H study, and the benefit cost analysis, which we'll talk about in a second. We had Gulf South to do our geotech engineering, and ELOS is assisting with permitting and cultural resources. So most of what I just talked about is done. Geotech is done, surveys done, studies are done, conceptual phase is done. We're about 80% done with the design of this project. So we had already submitted for the permit, and we did that early to try and meet an end of the year deadline last year. That got extended to this year. So the permit was submitted. We've since changed the design. We have to resubmit the permit. It was approved already. It's just a little bit more riprap and excavation. It's not something we think is going to be a problem as far as the review phase goes, but it does have to get just resubmitted. So that's actually going to be resubmitted this week. We are anticipating to submit 90% to Ascension Parish on March 9th, which is right after Mardi Gras, allowing for a 3-week review period, and then we'll get comments back by the end of March and be ready to go to bid into April. So your existing station, you have 3 pumps, 50,000 GPM each, built in 97, 98. Currently, we're told the pumps were shut down at an elevation of -3. So we went in, Quality came in and did an H&H study and a BCA, which is a benefit cost analysis. It compares the future risk reduction benefits of the mitigation project to the benefits of the project costs. So what they looked at is how much are we anticipating to spend now versus how much would have to potentially be spent on damages in the future. So in order to move this project forward, we needed a 1.0 BCA, and we are at a 2.44. So this project is going to be very beneficial. All right, expansion features. We are doing a new building, expanding the building next to the existing building to house your 2 pumps. We are doing the pump, suction, and discharge basin design, as well as modifying the existing reservoir to accommodate the new intake area. And this is a elevation of the new intake reservoir. So we are going down, the biggest thing here is we are going down to -18 elevation. Your existing is at -10. This is going to allow potentially in the future to drain to, so initially when this is built, the pumps are going to be stopping at elevation -3, at a shut-off elevation -3. However, this is being designed for future modifications and potentially will be shutting off at -6. It's going to require some, we already have some high points back in the reservoir, so it's going to require some more modifications in the future, but the pumps will be designed and ready to go to drain down to pump down to -6. And with that, I'm going to let Laura finish this one up.
Good evening. So similar to the existing pumps, they are diesel engine driven with a right angle gear drive. As Cindy mentioned, it's 2 pumps at 75,000 GPM each. There'll be tier 3 diesel engines with form suction intakes on the intakes to assist with getting good flow and help us achieve that future goal of being able to pump down to -6 ahead of big rain events. In addition to the new pump train system, we adding
400-gallon diesel day tank to serve those new engines, and then adding an additional 15,000-gallon diesel fuel storage tank to add to the existing, which is 2,000 gallons. So we're trying to give as much storage capacity as possible. We were really trying to aim for having at least 7-day capacity to serve all the pumps, new and existing, as well as the generator. So that will be added adjacent to the existing the diesel storage tank. And then, so the pump building, just focusing a little bit more on that expansion. The building, the new section is being built adjacent to the existing, and the overhead door and existing personnel doors will be maintained and just used as openings between the new and the existing. It is a little bit wider to allow the engines to line up with the existing engines to facilitate removal via hoist system tying into the existing. And then we're relocating the office building, the existing office building, next to the new station. One other thing to mention is we're widening the bridge along the screens on the intake side to allow for easier cleaning of those screens using the equipment that they use for the existing screens. And that's it.
Okay. Ms. Casso.
One thing I've enjoyed from other reports, although yours was wonderfully extensive, I also would love to see a timeline so that we understand how long this process is taking as compared to other processes. Unless I missed it, there was no cost information in your report either. I could have easily missed that.
The estimated construction costs, that is estimated at $6.5 million. It was on the first sheet.
Thank you. Easily could have missed it. And one thing I've noticed about all our pumping stations, I mean, there's no restroom. And I mean, I'm looking at people going, you're out there for days at a time, and you.
This one does have a restroom. We're maintaining the existing restroom, so on the very
Wonderful.
last page, you can see it. I mean, it's just a, there is no shower facility. It is just.
Look, I can live without a shower, but
yes, there is.
That porta-can is not good for
No,
days
there is
at
an
a time.
existing toilet and sink located in the corner. You can see it in the corner of the existing. So one thing we are having to do is relocate the septic system that serves the existing restroom because the new building is going to be going on top of it. So that's just being relocated. You can see it at the bottom, relocated sewage treatment tank.
Okay.
So we're keeping the existing restroom and just relocating that tie-in.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yes.
How are we going to get a bathroom out at Henderson Bayou and Marvin Bro? That's just the craziest thing I've ever seen. Thank you so much, ladies.
Mr. Lawler.
Yes, ma'am, and I may have missed this. The standard to which this building is going to be built, is it going to be able to withstand hurricane winds so we can put our people in there and don't have to evacuate them in the case of a direct hit?
So that was talked about at our last meeting with the parish. It is, the office building is currently not rated for that, and we are just relocating that building. It is something we can look into and consider. It currently is out of the scope of the project, though.
Okay, I know during Katrina, large parts of Jefferson Parish flooded because they couldn't man the pumps because the buildings weren't up to that rating. I'd hate to have a bunch of people flood here because we didn't build this up to that rating and we couldn't man those pumps.
Yeah.
Since they're not automatic, I think we should either look at manning those pumps via laptop, computer, whatever it is nowadays, or building these buildings so that we can have people in there during hurricanes.
So I believe this is where the SCADA design is going to come in. This is something that the parish is handling separately from this project, but these pumps along, I believe, with another pumping station are going to be all on a SCADA design so they can be operated remotely.
Okay.
But we can also look at the building if that's.
Well, it's probably much more cost effective to do it on the SCADA design, but as long as we're moving rapidly in that direction.
Yeah, it's planning to follow along with our design. It's just not being handled by us. It's being
Okay.
handled by the parish in conjunction with the existing SCADA that was recently installed on the existing pumps.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Parish President, you had a comment?
Yes, the as Councilman Lawler said. So our next item will be as in conjunction with this one, so obviously that's going to be looked at on the bigger scale project in item F, with having those type of buildings, and due to the fact it's a larger, and this has already begun the grant process to modify that, would put us at risk of having major delays, and so we don't want to delay this project, but obviously it's something we can look at in item F. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, up next, I believe I see Mr. Henry sitting back there with BKI, Sorrento Storm Surge Protection.
I'd like to thank the opportunity to present to the commissioners. And Commissioner Casso, there is a bathroom at Marvin Bro. You just have to go upstairs. It's a brand-new shower, brand-new bathroom. It's not the old dirty one downstairs.
I am relieved to hear that.
You just got to take a flight of stairs to get up there. But, and what we did do at Marvin Bro, we did do a hardened room. We didn't do quote-unquote a safe room because that has certain legal ramifications, etc. But we did a hardened area, which we also took the building while the area for Marvin Bro was set up for about a 90-mile-an-hour wind speed per the design code. We bumped it up to 150 for the structure, and then the hardened area was concrete block filled. You know, so we did provide a control room that was safe for your operators.
And they can go to the bathroom.
More than happy to let you know. Now to the party at hand. This is the West Shore Enhancement Sorrento Storm Surge Protection Project. Basically, it's a conglomeration of multiple project sponsors. We've got capital outlay program where we've got some funding that Pontchartrain Levy District has obtained over the years through assistance with the legislative group and BKI. As you mentioned, Pontchartrain Levy District is in the back tonight. We are including Ascension Parish and, of course, the Drainage District, as you'll see a little bit further. The study area basically covers north of I-10, east of Highway 22, and south of New River Canal. And basically what we're going to do is provide a polder, like everybody likes to say, that's going to protect that area from storm surge. This is not really intended to be a riverine issue. This is your annual tropical storm and hurricane event that you're looking for. This is not going to be something that would handle your 2016 flood. But basically, the study area includes both Bayou Conway and Bayou Boyle. And let me go to the, sorry about that. Let me go to the next slide. This is a map of the study area. What we've done is outlined the existing levees as a dashed line. The new levees are a solid line, and we're basically tracing the Sorrento area. In a nutshell, our project components include 3,400 feet of new earthen levee, a floodgate across Bayou Conway to prevent water from going up beyond that control structure. We're going to be adding additional pump capacity. It's estimated to be about 120 CFS, which is about equal to one of the pumps that are being added by Infinity. Their pumps are about 150 CFS, just for relative comparison. We're going to have a bypass gate that's going to allow water from Bayou Conway into the Sorrento sump area, so that it then can be pumped out and pushed out beyond the levee. We'll also have a backflow gate so that if we introduce more water into the sump, we don't backflow and flood the town of Sorrento itself. And we have met with the mayor previously with President Quinmont, and they're on board behind this. We've also got an upgrade of about 5,600 feet of the existing Sorrento levee, and we're going to have an existing farm levee that will improve for about 5,400 feet from New River Canal down to Airline Highway. Next slide. We've got an estimated construction cost, and please understand this is very preliminary, but we've got an estimated construction cost of about $6.5 million. We've got survey costs, geotechnical permitting, engineering, resident inspection for a grand total of about $7.5 million. About $5.5 million of that cost is going to come from capital outlay funds, which are being provided by PLD. The local match, which is 25%, is being provided by Ascension Parish, East Ascension Drainage District, roughly about $1.9 million, to add up for the total $7.5 million project cost. This is the first phase of a two-phase project. Our second phase basically covers from I-10 South to 3125, and it basically protects the area south of I-10, east of LA 22 and 70, and north of 3125, as we've mentioned. This is the map showing the lower portion in purple. We are working on additional funding through capital outlay to try and get that done. What we will be doing initially is enough surveying, geotechnical, environmental, to do the permitting process, to permit the entire project at once through the Corps, and then we'll do the construction as funding allows. Excuse me, okay, I got to conclude. We've got some flap gates on the Highway 70 section. We've got about 3,800 feet of new levee, 4,800 foot of levee upgrade, and a floodgate on Panama Canal. All right. And then, what we do have a project schedule. It has been included in your packet. Basically, phase one is estimated to be about a 4-year process. We just started last month, so we're in infancy. We've got our right of entry being processed now, so we can get our surveyors and geotechs out there. We anticipate design to be completed middle to third quarter of next year, and we're assuming construction to go out in 2024, complete, about 2 years later in 2026. And then as funding becomes available, we'll look at final plans and construction of phase two. Any questions?
Mr. Parish President.
Yeah, so I just wanted to touch base on the magnitude of this project. This is where sea level comes into the major effects. Dara and Sorrento will be devastated by a 2-foot rise in Marpole. Even after Ida, weeks after, Sorrento experienced rise in Conway because water was seeking its lowest elevation. So this gives us, in conjunction with the West Shore project in St. James, if y'all remember correctly, we were left out of the West Shore project, both St. James and Ascension. So this is the equivalent of attaching Ascension and St. James into that project. Having this project complete, and I know it's many years down the road, but this would allow us to put a pumping station at Conway in the Mississippi, also taking all that water and not contributing it to the Marpole Basin. But you can only do that when this is sealed off. And so you would just be pumping, because it's currently a gravity system, and without the levee system, it would also allow us to connect the Marvin Bro Basin with the Conway Basin and share responsibilities on both basins with both pumping stations, depending upon which one hasn't received major rainfall or which one ever the pumping station is doing, obviously with a control structure. But the magnitude of having this in place allows us to look beyond, down the road, 20, 30 years down the road with the future drainage of Ascension Parish in the southern part of our parish. So a monumental project, something that is as big as the others, because this seals off our southern end of our parish and puts it under pumps, allowing for just a varied options in drainage protection in the future. Thank you.
Mr. Lawler.
Yes, Mr. Henry, I may have missed this, but in conjunction with the Laurel Ridge levee, will that be completed before this is done?
I'm going to defer to Ms. Kimberly, but I would assume they're going to be finished
Yes.
way before.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I want to make sure.
If-
Okay.
if Laurel Ridge
That's what I
levee-
thought. I was hoping. I mean, it only started 30 years ago, so that's,
Yeah. No, they're getting ready to go to construction. We're still just doing surveys.
we've got another 10 or
Design.
15 on this, so we'll be good.
If
Right.
that levee isn't finished by 2026,
Right.
I'm gonna be pretty upset. All right, any more questions, comments from Mr. Henry? No? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do just want to make a quick little statement. Mr. Wagon's back now. I think we need to do a better job of collaborating on how many presentations in 2 meetings we do in one night, so.
You had more.
I did have more, he counted. But, I will try to break this up because this is a very long night. I just want to make the quick comment and the reason I'm glad we did do all of this together on the first night is to let our residents know, everything we discussed here. We're talking about, potentially having our levee extend from Wall Cemetery Road near Fred's on the river all the way to Conway at the landfill on Highway 70. That's just the entire eastern side, having a levee there, while also potentially installing 2, maybe even 3 pumping stations to not only not pump the water into the Amite and Blind River Basin, but take it out in 2 separate spots in New River for the Bluff and Conway in the Mississippi, to also help our neighbors who have not always loved our plans, even though mathematically we proved that, we're not causing harm to them. So I wanted everybody to see the big picture of where we're heading and the type of projects we have on the book. So I do appreciate everybody coming this late on a Monday night. Thank y'all very much. And I will tell you, I do want to do this about once a quarter-ish. If I do find that's too redundant, maybe we'll spread it out to like twice a year. But what I will try to do is break y'all up, maybe just have 2 or 3 at each meeting to where y'all not all sitting there together for 3 hours. So thank y'all very much. With that being said, we will move on to item 6G, or 2020 January Drainage Report. Mr. J.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. You stole my opening statement. I wanted to thank these individuals for these wonderful presentations they made on behalf of drainage and administration here. Thank y'all guys for your time. So, January 2020 operations report. As y'all know, I like to show y'all a little progress through photos. And this photo here is, look at the size of this log. Picked up out of Bayou Francois on the downstream side of our Smith Bayou Weir. So you can show that, you can see how much effect we would get when we open in valves and try to draw that water down. So this was something that was done here lately. Babin Canal, tree debris removal. We're still doing some minor removal from Hurricane Ida. This is just one operation. Grand Goudin, the Duplessis Park Bridge debris removal. You can see the amount of debris that was under that bridge causing obstructions. So we are currently, at this time, we have our boat crews out working all of the debris underneath all our parish bridges. So we send a thank you out to that boat crew for providing that service. It's very, very valuable in these big canals. Some Henderson Bayou tree obstruction removal. We're still working on some minor things until our contractors get to that area. We're still servicing it to keep that water flowing. Black Bayou, JB Tomplay Road outfall to Black Bayou Road. This is a minor lateral behind in between neighborhoods here that we're currently dug to move water from behind those homes. This is a project was a result of Wallace Acres drainage project. This bridge was downstream of this project, and it created restrictions in the flow from that upgrade to the Wallace Acres drainage project. This was a board-approved project with landowner dedicated servitude. The debris from this bridge was sent to the Colonial landfill per contract for proper disposal due to being creosote. All approvals were vetted by engineering. I showed a picture of this bridge here because you see the type of restriction we had, and it's really hard to justify a project upstream when you have this downstream. So this is something I wanted to show because it's a big project. We're working on it at this time, starting in the middle of January. This is a temporary crossing so that these residents can access their home. Also serves for safety, allowing them to cross back and forth, any safety efforts that would happen. This is a removal of that existing bridge, and these are the box culverts that replace it. So you can see how much more water flow we're going to get downstream out of this project. That's going to help with that Wallace Acres drainage project. So this is Mr. Dempsey here, 933 at Joseph Vera Road. This is a photo of this bridge here. You see this is a two-tier section bridge, and what you're looking at is one tier with probably, 6 foot of opening. We're talking 20, 30 foot span under this bridge. You can see here our equipment working on both tiers of this. What we're doing right now is, obviously we're all working with HNTB to see where these projects go in the future. But as a parish, we're identifying these choke points in these major laterals until we get to that point. So this is a project. Some people think it's small, but as Mr. Dempsey knows, we've got gas lines under this thing. We have to dig it below grade to get this equipment under it. It is a major project, and we do have to follow state guidelines on staying within a certain range of this bridge and these pilings. So we're making good efforts with it, but if everybody knows this area, we've had 3 90-degree bends here. So we picked this area to kind of open it up and get some of this restriction and give y'all at least some temporary relief until we get this canal. HNTB does their work, and we come back with the efforts on what size in this canal needs to go further. Bear with me, I'm sorry. Rita Lambert Road, Highway 431 outfall. And we have this Henry Road, Upper Muddy Creek lateral. This starts at Henry Road and will end at the railroad tracks beyond the flea market. So that'll give you an idea of the span of this upper section of Muddy Creek that we're currently working on. This is a maintenance type project. There's no enlarging of this area or anything. That's if it would need that would be up to projects later through HNTB floodplain management. But it is like I said, it is a maintenance style job. So Red Oak, White Oak Drive outfall to Bayou Man Shack. This area here is also maintenance of this lateral. Affects US 61, Red Oak, White Oak, and areas around and near Perkins Road. So this ought to improve a lot of drainage in that area. So it's just a little shot of something to shout out at our culvert cleanup crew. They're still going around catching some culverts. You see the small debris. They put a jack in this one, obviously before and after, kind of opened this culvert up a little bit. Just wanted to kind of show that. One of the main items we stepped up on this month was sinkholes, and you'll see that in a few minutes. It's just a little shot of some minor sinkhole work where in the past maybe a contractor or something forgot to put a plug in that concrete culvert, and we're going back and repairing that at a later date. So shout out to that sinkhole crew. We kind of put them back together, and they're doing a good job and stepping up at the moment and running those work orders down. So January 22 projects completed. You see here, the big notice you'll see is last month we put a lot of culverts in the ground. This month we did a lot of off-road drainage digging, and about the same number as road-sized ditches, but we were concentrating on that off-road while this weather was good to give us what we need in those larger laterals. 3 culverts replaced. We set 3 new culverts, 16 off-road drainage projects, 7 roadside ditch projects, 1 dressing and grading up, 3 culverts opened and raked. In that 3 open culverts and rake, I want to highlight, though, that was 3 entire neighborhoods. That was Villa Galvez, Rondo Place, and I hate to say it, guys, I don't remember the third. But President Clint Moss put that culvert crew on, and that's one of the things that I'm really proud of, because some of these efforts that we're making to get in these neighborhoods, we spoke of earlier, and these right here gives us some temporary relief in those areas, and that's very, very huge. Some of the things that we saw with culverts, just getting this as a temporary is working very good. So but we've got a total of 70 projects that was done in January.
Good. Any questions for Mr. J?
Very good presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you get off easy tonight.
Run.
I'll warm down for you. All right, thank you, Mr. J. All right, everyone, moving on to general business. Item 7A, I will remind everyone this is the one that I amended the language on, approval to move forward with RFQ for program management of all capital projects. Again, this was part of the manager's agreement that we passed October of last year. So we're not looking to approve an actual manager right now. Administration wanted permission to go ahead and put that RFQ out from us.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion from Ms. Casso, a second from Mr. Mason. Any questions, any comment, any objection? Hearing none, motion passes. All right, moving on to item 7B, new drainage director position and job description. We have Ms. Christelle here. What Ms. Christelle is looking for is for us to go ahead and she does have a presentation. It's for us to approve the general description of the general literature for the description and requirements. That way she can go ahead and start looking for this person for us.
Thank you, Chairman Molossaw, and I'll just be here an hour or two. So Patrick told me I'd be up here at 8:30. It's 8:37, so you were close. As Chairman Molossaw said, you have a number of documents in the packet that's associated with this presentation, but what we really want to do is get started on the search. You have information in your management agreement already that guides us, and so if you look behind agenda item 7B, it talks about the selection process, which was outlined. Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you. Which was outlined in the management agreement with the professional review board created by this board and the parish president, each party having 2 appointments. And the board will recommend the top 2 to 4 candidates as finalists for the drainage director position. And the final selection will be approved by a supermajority of this board. We've been selected, and we are honored to be working with you to conduct the executive search. We've done very similar searches with other municipalities and parish governments, as well as the state. And some of our work is noted there, working with CPRA and some of the people in this room, as a matter of fact, to get that started under Governor Jindal and Garrett Graves, and working with East Baton Rouge Parish to reorganize their Department of Public Works into 6 new departments. And then finally, working with some of the levy districts and consolidated levy districts and new boards, particularly the Flood Protection Authority East, and most recently with Pontchartrain Levy District. So what I think is really important from if I was a commissioner is to understand a little bit about the search process. If we post the job description for your position, no one wants it, okay? Job descriptions are boring. We have to make it very exciting. This is the best job in the United States of America for somebody who's qualified. It's a great place to be. And so we put together a position profile. This is an example of some of the language that we would think that we would use. We would also include descriptions of Ascension Parish, the amount of industry, just like the ITEP proposal that you approved today, and then talk about generally what we are looking for, and then fill in with some more specifics. So that's really just a sample and something for you to consider. We really, we'd love your advice and comments, but it's not necessarily something that needs to be approved. The next page, however, that talks about minimum and desired qualifications is something, Chairman Molasaw, that I do think we want the board to weigh in on. And we've included minimum qualifications there. When we were last here with the new positions that you approved, we talked about there's a trend now for minimum qualifications to truly be the minimum, and then you can add on to that by preferred or desired qualifications. So we tried to give you that option here. We think that experience is extremely important in this new drainage director, and so 7 years of increasingly responsible experience in municipal public works operations or a consultancy providing services to such operations, including 3 years of administrative and management responsibility. That's a minimum. Equivalent of a bachelor's degree from an accredited college or university. Major coursework could be in civil engineering or public administration or related field, which that's not subtle. That allows for someone to have a variety of different kinds of undergraduate degrees. However, and then a Louisiana driver's license or the ability to obtain that. However, desired is a strong background in drainage, floodplain management, and or stormwater management, the ability to obtain within 6 months, if they don't already have it, and maintain certified floodplain manager certification, and then possession of or ability to obtain a professional engineer license from the state of Louisiana. You currently do not have a PE on staff, which is hard to believe for a parish government of this size. So we think that this is an important and highly desired qualification. Chairman Molasaw, I don't know if you want to press pause and see if we have questions or thoughts.
Mr. Lawler.
Yeah, I do have a question, and maybe, I don't know if you'll be the best person to answer it, or maybe somebody else in the audience, but I'm not really sure what it takes to obtain an ASFM, Certified Floodplain Manager. What is that something that can be done in 6 months? Do you need, I'm seeing John nod yes. Okay.
You want to speak? You want to talk about it, John?
It can be done. Anyone that has that background, it's a test you take.
Can you step to the mic, Mr. John, real quick?
I'm sorry. So, yeah, it's something that can be done in 6 months, to answer your question in a short manner. It's a test you take, you study for it, and it's available, depending on when it becomes available, but it can be done.
Okay. I was just curious.
That's it?
That's it?
Mr. Mason.
Yeah, given the fact that you just highlighted that we don't have a PE on staff, do you think that maybe instead of desired, we should put that almost as a minimum? Or would that kind of exclude candidates then?
My opinion is desired.
We've had a lot of discussions about this.
She's looking at me. She doesn't want to tell you what I'm about to say.
No, I do.
If you put that as a minimum requirement, then in Ms. Christel's professional opinion, you're going to eliminate most of, if not all of, potential candidates.
But aren't we looking for a PE then?
However, I saw more heads nod about that than not, and I believe that the administration would very much like to have that, so.
Okay.
We need to be prepared to hire a PE if it's not available here. We may need to hire 2 people. We would love to have it in this candidate, but I think that's a desire. We may need to hire on those recently approved engineering titles and jobs that we got approved. So we just need to be prepared for that. Yes, we would like it to be in this candidate. Is it a must? We take a heavy risk in requiring it to be a must. So we just need to be prepared to hire 2 individuals if we cannot find it in the original candidate.
I will agree with that. I mean, we need a PE on staff eventually. If it's not this person, then we should look into that. Mr. Lawler.
Yeah, I have mixed thoughts on this. Part of my concerns is, I guess it kind of jumps ahead to job functions. I don't envision this person as being an engineer. I don't envision this person as somebody that we're going to go to as a commission and ask for engineering work, or we're going to go to and ask to stamp projects. This person is going to be a director, is going to be looking at budgeting and the big picture and really managing a large group of people and a large staff. I'd hate to think that this person is going to get bogged down with engineering work when we're really looking for a director here. And part of my concerns, I kind of skipped ahead and looked at the job functions. While, I understand a lot of these functions are good, it seems like a lot of these functions that I'm seeing, these proposed functions, are more of goals for the East Ascension Drainage District, and not necessarily what the director should be doing. I think it's very good to have, I looked at some of this. Somebody maintain an update of floodplain information on the Ascension Parish website. I certainly don't want to pay my director to do that. I don't want to pay my director to oversee field inspections and gather field data. A lot of what we have here, and if we're envisioning this position as an engineer, their time's going to get eaten up, and we're going to lack that broad focus, that broad view that a director, I believe, should bring for this position. That's why I have concerns about saying it has to be an engineer, and there are a lot of really smart people out there that may be engineers, but they don't have their PE. And there are a lot of smart people out there that have different degrees that are really good directors and managers that I'd hate to eliminate from this. So it's just my 2 cents. I know most people probably don't agree with me, and I don't know, but that's what I think.
Mr. Weisbach.
Yeah, I agree with some of that Councilman Lawler has said. I guess I would ask the question, and maybe Jared Monso, you might have to, I'm gonna put you on the spot, but I see a lot of people in this room tonight. I think we hire people with professional engineering licenses. They stamp designs. I guess I don't know, I guess I'd have to be convinced more that we actually need a PE.
Can you come up, Jared?
Yeah, you got to come up
please?
to the mic.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, I think it would be more a desire in this position for a PE. Because the way I view it in this position, the PE is just means that you can take a test. And that's the way I view it. But if you can find one that has a PE, that's phenomenal. But I wouldn't put it as a minimum requirement, my opinion.
Appreciate it. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I did. Anyway. No, if that guy walks up and he's got all these great skills for running all these budgets and presenting and facilitating, and he's a PE, oh, great. But I'd have to agree with Councilman Lawler. I don't think we want this guy doing field work. You do want that higher level.
And I think we can shift to talk about functions in a minute. So I don't want to drag us sort of into that yet. But I will say,
you have your hand up, or your mic?
Yeah, no, I agree with Councilman Wagsback and Lawler. If we can find the only advantage of having someone with the ability to look at projects or engineering drawings is I envision this drainage being director, if you're going to have him as described in function 1 of being that technical advisor over all drainage related functions, capital projects, maintenance steering committees, technical representative Ascension, also developmental compliance. That's a huge part of Ron's job, is having to go into planning and look at drawings and look at subdivision drawings, drainage drawings, and give his professional opinion. We'd love to have for this individual to take that role and own it and be our owner's rep and look at those drawings and drainage studies and have that background knowledge. But I agree, we shouldn't make it a must, but it should be a desired quality of this individual. And We're shooting for the stars. We're looking for that unicorn here. So I think we should certainly have it in that description as a desired function. Thank you.
And to the parish president's point, a lot of these people that we're going to look for are found in planning and development departments around the country. So that is a big part of their responsibility. Just so you'll know, when you go through a stack of resumes, and hopefully we'll have a healthy stack, it's possible to put people who have a PE on the side. They can go into a preferred batch, be evaluated as well as others. What worries me is if you were private industry and you put that as a requirement, and then you found a unicorn that, gosh darn, I don't have my PE, then you have, I think, a little more of an obligation to deal with that differently because you're a public organization. So you're not taking anything away by having it as a desired quality. You're just allowing the pool to be larger to start off with, if that helps. But it's nice to hear that there's a lot of support for that. Thank you. Do you want to get approval on this?
So did you want the knowledge, skills, and abilities? Did you want to just go through that as part of the description as well?
I don't think
Okay.
that needs, what's on this page, minimum and desired qualifications, goes into the posting, and we don't have to have approval, but as long as there's consensus that we're comfortable with that, I think we're good to go.
Right, and I would like there to be the majority for the description, just so everybody's, everybody's on board with the next step. So it isn't needed, but I would, I'd like to vote.
Well, if the chair would
I'm sorry.
I would love to make a motion that we approve these minimum and desired qualifications as seen, as shown.
I'll second that.
And as discussed.
A motion by Ms. Casso, a second by Mr. Lawler. Any objection? Hearing none? Good.
Thank you very
Ms.
much.
Christel.
Knowledge, skills, and abilities came from a variety of sources in doing research on similar jurisdictions or in listening to board members talk about what they were interested in, listening to administration talk about what they were interested in. These are highlights that we would look for as we're recruiting and also as we're evaluating, but they are just that. They can be added to or reduced if needed. Someone who was reviewing this told me you'll never find somebody who can do all of that, but there really are people out there who do all these things or have this. So strong management skills came through in a lot of the conversations, coupled with the engineering expertise, knowledges of federal and state laws and guidelines, or the ability to pick that up pretty quickly if they come in from somewhere else, but certainly the National Flood Insurance Program, floodplain mapping, hydrology models, land use planning theory. They should be able to sit in a meeting like this and easily grasp what's going on. So you couple that with being, it's very important that they can work interdepartmentally because they are going to have to draw from expertise in a number of different areas and certainly dealing with public in a pleasant and courteous manner under adverse and stressful conditions, work independently and be able to set priorities and organize their workload, experience working on programs that are related to drainage and floodplain management, experience in applying for and obtaining USACE permits, and just working with the Corps in general, reviewing drainage engineering construction plans, and as Parish President talked about, assisting in developmental compliance, representing the parish, experience building a budget annually, and also your capital budget. And I think this is something that we would all agree is really very, very important. Ability to make public presentations to you, to different agencies, other organizations as needed, and experience working on code enforcement and the creation of new regulations. So it's a very broad set of skills that you're looking for in somebody like this, because you're really crossing a lot of different functions that are already in existence in parish government. Any questions or comments about that?
Seeing none, Ms. Crisco.
Okay. We took a stab at some job functions, and you'll see job functions option 1. We also took a stab at some options for organization charts, and this is really just for your review and study and discussion, probably at a later date. It's very detailed, as Commissioner Lawler said. It's a lot of things, and I will just say that this person is not doing all these things. He or she is not going into the field themselves, but they are theoretically responsible for them or have a shared responsibility for them. And so I don't think they can escape that. I welcome questions about this or comments or anything that you think is not in there that you expected to see.
Parish President.
Thank you, Chair. So I want to piggyback on Councilman Lawler's comments on job functions and what we're looking for. And this has to do with the functional or chart in option 1. There's a couple things here that deal with a lot of day-to-day activity. And so when I read these job functions, I honestly didn't think one person could do all this. And so I think that is the major issue we're having currently, is that Ron is trying to do all these options and all these job functions, and he is just overwhelmed. And so I think it's very important when we hire this individual to be clear and concise on what your job functions are going to be. So if we could take a look at the option of operations director versus drainage director, the plan would be clear on what the actual duties of this drainage director would be. And there's only a couple items that, it's assistant development of parish-wide drainage maintenance to handle citizens' complaints, investigate floodplain-related complaints. That's work order related and day-to-day activities and maintenance. In my opinion, that should be handled under operations. That, in my opinion, there is a probably 6-month to 1-year overlap of Ron having to assist this new individual. If we hire this person not from this parish, they're going to know nothing about our water system. And it will take Ron Savoy's time to spend with this individual, let him know how every channel and every basin works so that he can have a experienced or educated knowledge of our drainage system. So I see a 6-month to 1-year time period to get an adjustment that Ron will need to assist this. I think this is where Ron's assistant, Jay Robin, comes in. And they're currently working on our new work order system coming in March for our day-to-day activities, as well as improved reporting with our work order system, so that when a citizen or a board member or councilman puts in a work order, it sends an email to y'all stating each new work order put into the system, and then sends you an email on when it was completed, so that you can choose to make contact with that citizen, make sure they're satisfied with their service, or at least at bare minimum, keep up with work order flows in your district. So we're looking at that, and the whole purpose of clear and defined functionality of day-to-day activities in option 1 of having this person handle these major capital 30,000-foot view tasks that Ron currently is trying to struggle between handling those and day-to-day functions, is taking that and allowing Ron Savoy and Jay Robin to handle operations and focus solely on that, so that they do what they do best, and having Ron come up through every level of operations until where he is today gives him that expertise and that operations. No doubt that I think that he's going to excel and that once all of this and all these jobs is taken off of his plate, and now he can solely focus on operations and have this drainage director looking at capital projects, grants, making sure that the program manager, company, whoever that may be, is doing what they're supposed to be doing, being our owner's rep, looking at developmental compliance, planning, that 30,000-foot view of putting it all together. Now, with that being said, it would be constant communication between the drainage director and operations director. It would be a team effort. It is not one side versus the other. It is a team of communication. As I said, there will be a 6-month to 1-year overlap with Ron assisting this new drainage director. So I was concerned when looking at job functions in option 1, how much that this individual would be. It's daunting. It is literally daunting when you read it. And so I think it needs to be clear on, and that's why I love the operations director that Sullivan, and we talked about it, and because it gives a clear and defined purpose for these individuals, and they can just strictly go to work. And I think functionality, day to day, that is crucial in ensuring that we get the projects completed and we have the knowledge and the feedback and the reports and the data that this person is going to be responsible for, because it's huge. And having this separated in this form and fashion, I think is going to be huge for this drainage department. I really do. I think it's probably going to be one of the best things we've done in a long time, by relieving Ron with this burden and putting it on where he needs to excel on what he knows best. So that's my 2 cents, whatever it's worth. Thank you.
Mr. Wagenspat.
Oh, first?
You first.
Yeah, so I have a couple things. And I know we all talk about how much we like the I can't think of the name of the Tigers. Shut up. The drainage, the drainage department, or the drainage department we see in Houston. Have we tried to somewhat look at their organization and see where this, we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. I mean, we like what they do over there. They have a much bigger budget than we have. They've spent 30 years doing it, but is there something to be said to look at their organization and maybe see where this guy exists there and look at that job qualification?
Did you say Harris County?
Harris
Did I
County
miss that?
Flood.
Okay.
Thank
Yes.
you. I couldn't think of the name of it,
Yes,
so.
we pulled their organization chart. We did some research.
Okay.
They do contract out most of their work, but have highly qualified people in leadership positions and management of those contracts. We are getting a job description. We don't have it yet, so we'll have as much information, because I know so many of you saw that firsthand and were very complimentary of it. So I think that it's an aspirational model, but it's a great model. So I think that will be very helpful. The organization chart does have everything under the executive director, but you have to decide how that laces up compared to Ascension Parish, and I think that's what the parish president was talking about.
Right.
So-
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think we mimic their org chart. I think we just kind of find this guy we're trying to hire, what he does in their organization.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I think another piece of that, Clint talked about getting some things off of Ron's plate. I mean, and maybe, would it make sense to take 6 things that Ron, that you feel like he doesn't have time to do, that takes him away from operations? Was that a basis for kind of starting this job description?
Well, actually, the proposed, or the sample organization charts, there are 2. I've said this before. Form follows function, so tell me what you want to have happen, and I can help you design the organization for that. So in option 1, which is what we were talking about, and this doesn't get we don't need to go too far below this level until we agree on what the big picture looks like. The management agreement does say that the parish president will report to the Board of Commissioners, and it does say that the drainage director will report. It is a new position that will report to the parish president. That being said, you can take it a lot of different ways. So here's option one, where you would have the drainage director working collaboratively, that's the arrows for communication and collaboration, with the operations director, assuming that's Ron, but again, we wanted to stay with functions rather than anything else. And then to put a little more detail in, basically your drainage director would handle your capital projects along with the program manager that is also a specified position in the management agreement. So that drainage director would really oversee that, and then could, as President Quintma said, help to oversee compliance, maintenance plans, operational plans, et cetera. And the operations director would have responsibility for all maintenance in the parish. And so that's one way to carve it up. Commissioner Wagspack, there are other ways that you can carve it up. You can put 3, you can put, half here. At one point, we had a major projects. We had sort of major parish-funded projects, which I think is what Jay was looking at. We could have some day-to-day routine maintenance project, et cetera. The devil's in the details. But in terms of the high level, there really are only a few options. So the job functions describe option 1. If you take out assist and that sort of thing, then it becomes option 2. And option 2 is that the drainage director reports to the parish president and has either assistant directors or directors of operations and capital projects under them.
Right. And
so this is a discussion that needs to take place, but it's not a simple discussion.
Right. And just for clarity, so the whole point of this agenda item tonight is, you look at 2 options. We critique, constructive criticism on both, and that way we really have a plan going forward. So, we're not voting on any of this tonight, but I do want to hear as many questions or concerns that we have from the commission, administration. If Mr. Salvor and Mr. Robin have any input, I want to hear that as well.
I just have one more. What?
Go ahead. I got like 4 more behind you, so.
Oh, I just have one more. I mean, I do agree that in the beginning that Ron would kind of have to teach this guy. Clint, you would have to teach him. Jade, you would have to teach him. I mean, I think we don't have this guy today. He's obviously not from Ascension Parish. So I can see that 2-way, but I think long term, we talked about this early on when we first started, is do we do work orders because people ask for them, or do we do work orders because it gets the most bang for the buck? And that's where I want to see that drainage director direct vegetation and maintenance in a way that benefits the most people. Not just because a work order came up and a citizen wants it, but because there's a good reason to put this one in front of that one. So that would be my comment about the structure. I mean, I think option 1 happens every day in a plant, in an industry, but I think priority-wise, setting projects and maintenance and, even in a plant, I mean, deciding to do a pump or decide to do a debottleneck, that all goes up through capital projects. I'd rather see it to where operations falls under the drainage director and there's a projects and operations. I mean, when it starts, yes, of course, Ron's got to teach him kind of the lay of the land, but I still think you want that guy kind of directing down to capital projects. But that's my 2 cents. I know you got a lot. Y'all go ahead and move on from there. I just wanted to make that comment.
All right, thank you. Mr. Lambert.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just want to let everyone know that dreams really do come true. And this is very exciting, but the main thing, we want to, when we finally get this person, we want to make sure we keep them. And we want to make sure that they go the distance. You know, tonight we talked about rerouting water in different basins. We definitely want Jade and Ron and everyone to prep and let this gentleman or he or she know what we doing and moving water in different directions in this parish. It's going to be very exciting, and you know, the main thing what we need, and I think it goes back to the PE. You know, we need someone young. We need someone that's going to go the distance, because y'all have heard of projects that's going to expand over to 2050. Okay, so if we don't have someone here with the knowledge and we leaving the history here for them, they're going to have nothing. I mean, so we're going to have to, you know, and I'm not discriminating on anything on age here, but we are going to, you know, we're going to have to pay, and we're going to have to search very hard. And, you know, that all these qualifications, get ready for the sticker shock, because you're going to have to pay for it. And thank you.
Mr. Mason.
So I guess since we're on the org chart, I'm going org chart. The option 1 functional distribution chart that you have, I think I personally like that one the best. The only thing that I would add is maybe the dotted lines between the drainage director and the program manager, and have those two work in congruence with each other. And the reason why I like the drainage director and the operations director kind of being separate is because one of the biggest things in HR trends right now we're seeing is burnout. And I feel like if everything falls under one drainage director, that person will get burnt out. And like Dempsey's saying, we're looking for somebody for the long haul. And so if we can separate operations and the big picture, then I think that, you know, if Ron or whomever does the operations side of it, and then the new drainage director handles the big projects, and they're working, I mean, you know, you have the dotted lines there for a reason between the drainage director and the operation director, that they are working in congruence with each other. So there will be communication back and forth about the day-to-day, about the vegetation, about the steering and all that stuff. I mean, it's not going to be the operations director making these decisions by himself or herself. So I think that the option 1 functional distribution is the one that I'm leaning towards right now. I think that kind of gives us the most kind of separation, so that the new drainage director doesn't come in and just be bombarded with all this new information as well as all these new job duties, and, you know, lets Ron kind of shine at what he's really good at, and keeps everybody not getting overworked and burnt out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mason. Mr. Cagnolati.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with a lot of what Dow said. I think this is a very critical position. I'm a PE or not a PE, as an EIT if we want someone young who's considering, you know, getting his PE. But I think the drainage director, when you look at any organization, the director is a high level manager. He manages. You know, he manages people, he manages projects, he manages operations, he manages maintenance. So I'm leaning toward having that director, it's a very high-level management person, regardless of the age. You know, we'd like to get someone who can go the long haul. I agree with that, but I think if we focus on a manager, someone who's got the skills to manage, and of course having the background of drainage or flood control, whatever. But I revert back to Harris County. We went there and we saw high-level professionals in that organization. We saw meteorologists, we saw geologists, we saw civil engineers, we saw, you know, mechanical engineers, we saw electrical engineers, and it was kind of an all-encompassing organization. And the management of that was high level. It was a person who had to look over the whole operation and get, like he said, Mr. President, that 30,000 foot view of everything. So that's just my 2 cents. And I know we've had some long discussions on this, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
Mr. Lawler.
Just remember, Mark Zuckerberg was a college dropout. Just saying. We're looking for a genius here. No, in all seriousness, first of all, I think it's I don't want to decide anything tonight. I just don't think it's the right time to decide the options or functional distributions or any of that yet, because I think this deserves a lot more discussion. I'd like to see us all get involved in this and learn a little bit more about it. My 2 cents, though, I did my little chart here. I mean, I really do. I agree with what Councilman Cagliati was saying and Councilman Mason was saying. I've heard a lot of good things from a lot of people, actually. This person, I think, is the high-level person. To really, they will have their hands in a lot of things, but not so deep that it bogs them down. And I think that's one of the keys, is that we make sure that they're supported by good people. Part of what I envision with this person is we have a director, and that director is answered to by an operations director, and then that operations director is answered to by a maintenance director and a vegetation director, because those are 2 different things that really need to work together, but they are 2 separate things. We also have a large funded projects, I think I heard somebody talk about this, division that would answer to that director. But additionally, we have an unfunded projects manager, director, and I'm just using the word director repeatedly. But we should, I think, treat large funded projects differently than unfunded projects. We go after them differently, we do different things. I'd also like to see this director or somebody within EADC, and this may be selfish, but be like a liaison to transportation, that we constantly know what drainage is doing and they know what transportation is doing. So a great example is now it's a success on the Muddy Creek Bridge. Or is it Manchac Acres Bridge? It's Manchac Acres going over Muddy Creek, is when those 2 work together, we're able to fix a transportation and drainage problem that it began as just one problem. So I'd like to see that kind of coordination there. And I'd like, this person will answer to the parish president, but I think they should also at least have a dotted line to the Drainage Commission. I think that's very important that, I heard somebody saying, we want to, I think it was Councilman Waxback, make sure that our maintenance is being done and we work on work orders based on effectiveness. And it's very hard, very blunt to put it this way, but to tell somebody, no, your drainage project isn't as important, you're afraid you're going to lose their vote. But the reality is some drainage problems are worse than others. I got a call years ago about 3 inches of water in somebody's back ditch. That wasn't a problem. It wasn't close to their house. It wasn't a problem. They just didn't like they had 3 inches of water in their house. Or, I'm sorry, not their house, in their back ditch, way far away from their house. We have to be able to tell people, no, we have a plan. We have a maintenance plan. We're going to stick to it. And you're going to be serviced by the Drainage Commission and the district and everybody down the road. And that, to me, is very important about this position, that they have to have the willpower and the strength to be able to resist all of us, to resist the parish president. When we call and say, hey, we need help on a project, my neighbor needs this, my constituent needs this, we need somebody that's going to say, no, that's not part of the project. We can't do that right now. We can't spare the manpower to do it. We need somebody with that kind of background and that kind of backbone. So those are my thoughts in it. I prefer not to vote on this tonight. I don't think there is really a vote on this. It's all for discussion. But I think it deserves more discussion. And I looked at Harris County while I sat up here. They are very inverse Christmas tree, an upside-down pyramid, but it looks really good. And you can tell that they have a top director. They've got a lot of good people below. I mean, they've got HR, they've got planning, they've got infrastructure, all these different things. That's what I think we need. And I think with really strong management, we're going to see a lot of improvement. And I mean, we're doing well now. I think this is a really good opportunity that we have to jump into the 22nd century, maybe.
23rd?
I'm good. I would like to point out that Harris County has like $150 million a year also.
Chump change.
All right, Ms. Castro, you had a comment?
Yeah, I would be being redundant if I went over everything I was thinking, because most of what I was thinking has been already discussed. But so I think one of the things that needs to be mentioned here is how this is a dream come true for us. And one of the great pieces of that dream is to have this administration and Dr. Slaughter come and present us with options that we get to make a decision about. without it having to be done tonight. I am so proud of this administration. I think that is a huge step in a direction that brings us into the 21st century. And maybe it gets us into the 22nd. And Dr. Slaughter, for your work, thank you so much. I'm almost overwhelmed at the idea that we're going to be able to make this step and what it's going to mean to the citizens of our parish. And so I thank you very much, Clint and Christelle, for what you've done. And all of your team who worked to put this together. It is really, I think this might be the first time that I've had a presentation in 10 years that said, here's your options. And that is just, that already is a red letter day. So thank you very much.
Mr. Mason, and then we'll go back to the parish president.
Okay. Yeah, I just have one more little thing. I've been kind of listening to what everybody is saying, and I'm trying to like picture these ideas in my head, and it still kind of feels like we're going in kind of a linear kind of distribution of duties. And my concern with that is that's kind of what we have right now. And obviously this board has decided that what we have right now is not working. So I'm just curious as to like, why would we continue doing something that's not working right now? That's that's just my thought process. I guess that's just me like spitting out loud, just things in my head. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Chair. Michael's comment was dead on. When I look at functionality for what we have, the people we have, the operations, I can make either or chart work. Doesn't matter. My fear is if when you tell a drainage director when we're trying to hire him that, listen, you're responsible for day-to-day grass cutting and vegetation. In addition to all of this other stuff. All of this 30,000, but listen, I need you down in the weeds on telling the life crew how to cut that, or which cut the ditch needs to be cut. That's my concern. You're simply going to overwhelm this individual. That is just my opinion, because that's what's happening now. That's exactly what's happening now. When you do a vertical chart like that, that drainage director, for accountability purposes, becomes accountable for day-to-day activities. And that's simply going to be overwhelming. Just my opinion, because it's overwhelming today. It is the problem we have today. And so either one will work. I can tell you from an operations standpoint, separating and having operations separate from this person, because this person is going to help them do the maintenance. They're going to be looking, they're going to be communicating. But when it comes to accountability, and I need to know why day-to-day stuff haven't worked, I'm going to talk to the operations guy. Because the director, he's handling that 30,000 foot stuff, the capital projects, the budgeting, the 3 to 4 year budgeting, the developmental compliance, checking in on drainage studies, and figuring out, in addition to communicating with the operations director, finding out day-to-day stuff, helping them solve problems, them communicating, going back and forth. If you give that drainage director both of those responsibilities, both of those boxes, there's not a human being can do it. He will have to give up. He'll have to sacrifice that. And I can't hold him accountable to that, because I'm telling you right now, he can't do it. Nobody can, because it can't be done today. Nobody can. I can make either or chart work. Doesn't matter. I'm just telling you from a functionality and accountability standpoint, this is the better functioning chart. That's it.
Ms. Christelle, anything
A
else to add?
couple of things. President Quamon just said the magic words. It is up to him. At the end of the day, I've seen really terrible organization charts and really outstanding performance, because the leader does hold people accountable and makes it work. I do think that there are better ways of organizing things, and that's what I studied to learn how to do. And there are definitely some principles and guidelines that work. That being said, as Commissioner Wagaspak said, you go into a plant, you see things separated, but in some plants they work better together than others. And so what's the difference? And so it really is about leadership. I look forward to providing you with information, helping you with discussions, figuring this out. I do think we can go forward with our toe in the water to advertise up to a certain point. When you start getting direct questions about the job and the role and that sort of thing, you can tell candidates, we're not there yet. We're conducting a search for the Office of Public Health for a chief medical officer, and the top 4 candidates all know that they might have all the regional medical directors, and they might not. They might have emergency preparedness, and they might not. And if they aren't comfortable with that, they probably shouldn't come work for the state of Louisiana. I mean, it's just, it's another overwhelming position that leadership is trying to figure out. So I do think that with what you've approved already, Commissioner Melancon, I think that we can go ahead and get started. And I think that this is going to be an attractive job in the marketplace if we are able to have some good networking and use some of the channels, even with some of your consultants who know good people around the country. So I don't think we need to hold back. However, I do think, for obvious reasons, the discussions need to be had and need to figure out where consensus is.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, hang on, there you go.
There. I sense an urgency here. You have April showers on the way.
Yes.
And I think the quicker the better. I mean, that's just me. But we cannot let this go out, 4 or 5 months. We need something in the next month or two. And let's move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Christel. I appreciate it.
Good deal.
All right, moving on to item 7D. Approval of task order from Hartman Engineering to move forward with plans and specification of Shadows of Manchac Drainage Project Phase 1. Get on back up here, Mr. Monso.
Yes, sir. I didn't bring my proposal with me. Do y'all have it in the agenda?
Well, you could have said that while he was sitting back
I
there.
wouldn't make him up here. I hadn't seen him in a while. My ours aren't that good. He sits so far back.
We have a motion by Commissioner Lawler, second by Commissioner Mason. Any objection, any questions? Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Here we're gonna have a little discussion over parish-wide sandbagging. Mr. Ryan Savoy.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to go over this with you. So, start off just kind of giving a whole overview of sandbags as a whole item. So, this is kind of the logistics layout of where we currently have sites in the parish for residents to go and get pre-bagged sand. We'll get into that further in a few slides of how that's been a challenge for our departments. A few fun facts we'll go over here. In general, it's been known that the Vegetation Division has been the primary owner of the service of making the pre-bagged sandbags. There are 16 sea cans throughout the parish that store the pre-bagged sand. Each of these sea cans holds about 10,000 bags, and that gives us a total inventory of 160,000 pre-bagged sandbags. One 10-hour shift, they produce an average of 4,000 bags a day, with 2 of the bagging machines producing bags. 40 working days is what it takes to produce 160,000 quota, with a daily crew of 14 employees to man the 2 bagging machines. 30 days of work produces the stacking and storage needed for the 160,000 bags that are produced. It takes 2 days to stack and store 10,000 bags in one of the 16 sea cans with a crew of 5 employees. In-house labor estimates, these are rough estimates, but it is come up to be that we see it, the obvious rate is $5 a bag. plus the loss of the primary division vegetation. So you're losing that level of service that they should be providing the residents every day. By fax, inventory takes a 2-month project, but the parish works 16 days, a full 10-hour schedule, and they have 30 days in a month, and 16 of them we're producing. So this whole project can take up to 3 months to actually make 160,000 bags and store them. And we have seen 160,000 sandbags be completely depleted in 3 days' time. So 3 months' work, 3 days' time, we're starting the process over. Let's go to the next slide, just kind of give you a visual of these machines. It's not necessarily what you would envision as a factory producing bags. This is manual labor that it takes to do this. Don't get me wrong, we produce bags and we've been doing what we can with the staff we have to do this. And everybody pitches in and we've been getting it done, but it is cumbersome on the staff all involved. Just to give you a magnitude, this is one C-can with the 10,000 bags stacked in it. C-can is roughly 40 feet long, 8 foot by 8 foot in dimension, and you can see by the way these bags are strategically stacked in these cans, it's guys on top of bags inside of these cans manually stacking this to prepare for these events that we given these pre-bagged sand bags out to the public. So just kind of going over what it really takes. It's backbone breaking work. It's tough, and our guys have done a great job, in my opinion, as far as Ascension providing this service to the public. So even though we do a great job at it, it's very challenging to keep this sustained and keep this service going. So in the past year, we've networked out to other parishes to kind of see what other people are doing to keep with their residents in this service and what are they doing. So we took a trip out to Iberville Parish, and they have the exact same setup that we have. We were shocked to see that, walk up to the machines and they're exactly what we have. And they experienced the exact same issues that we've had for as morale and keeping everybody motivated to get up and do this day in and day out. And so they elected to contract the service out. And when they did that, what they do is store an inventory of pre-bagged sand at their facility at Public Works in Iberville. I would estimate it's around 15 to 20,000 that they have. They have one big stockpile, and once that's depleted, they'll start making them as they distribute them out. East Baton Rouge Parish has various sites with loose sand and empty bags, and the residents can go to these sites and make sandbags and take them as they're needed in these storm events. And so we looked at taking what we learned from Iberville. We decided, well, let's go ahead and try to contract this out in Ascension. And so in October 2021, we developed an RFP, and we did just what Iberville did. We put together a packet that says we want a vendor to supply the labor, supervision, equipment to produce pre-bagged sandbags. In the scope, the parish was to supply the bags and the sand needed to perform the services. One proposal was received at $4.87 a bag, which was similar to what we came up with in the parish staff doing it at $5 a bag. But if you add the ratio up, 487 times the 160,000 inventory, that comes up to $779,000 roughly to meet the inventory quota one time that could be depleted in 3 days, potentially. So this was discussed, and it seemed to be a validation and calibration of what we estimated. So we actually got a quote that mathematically proved that if we contracted it out, $5 is a realistic number per bag. And when we looked at that at almost $1 million to fill up the quota one time, it was decided that that might be a strain on the budget. And we looked at possibly changing how we provide this service. So that really didn't come to you guys for vetting because we felt like it would be more budget than we could sustain. So then we say, well, where does the service stand right now and possible change in how the workflow is occurring? So there is a company, we did some research on the internet and found a company that actually sells pre-bagged sand in secured sacks that come with 100 sandbags pre-bagged in the sacks. 2,000 bags per sea can would be the new level of service quota, totaling 32,000 bags on hand, meaning that if you don't strategically stack these bags in the sea cans, you'll nowhere near get the 10,000 per can anymore. So the way that these things are packaged, these bags are uniformly produced, providing a solid product that allows better application of the craft. They also come with a higher UV protection specification and a higher quality product. This provides the department with operations metrics to understand loading and delivery needs, storage needs, and logistical planning of how the new service will be provided in the future. A second RFP has been drafted and is now in the process with the deliverable specifications in line with this product mentioned and shown in the photos attached. And so this would be what your new product would look like. It's an actual production company that produces these on mass production. And so the deliverable is in a big sack that you can actually handle with various pieces of equipment. And you can see on the forklift it came with an attachment with the order. They let us keep that, and that's how you would load and unload these deliverables. You can see them on the 18-wheeler trailer. That's how we came up with the fact that it would be 16 of these sacks would be able to fit in a sea can, because an 18-wheeler trailer is roughly a sea can's floor. And so that's our metrics, and we thought about double stacking them in a sea can, but there's an issue with the height of a forklift inside the can. So that's how you come up with the 32,000 in inventory. But you can see the bags themselves, they're not ring clipped anymore, they're not round and bulky, they're not mixed weight, they're uniform. They're sewn closed and they lay flat. And when you look at a diagram of how to apply sandbags in the craft, it's much easier and much more consistent with a product that's been mass produced. So that's where we got our specifications for the upcoming RFP. And that brings us to the current sandbag situation and the plan of action if called for. So currently, the parish has no inventory of pre-bagged sandbags. We have more than 20 dump trucks, approximately 5,000 cubic yards of sand, and 250,000 empty sandbags on hand. We can have loose sand and bags at every site in the parish within 5 hours' time. The department is looking for direction where the board may want to go with sandbagging in general. Budget is an item that needs to be determined as to how much the board is willing to allocate to pre-bag sand in the parish annually. The vegetation division is working diligently every day in vegetation management of the drainage systems within the parish. The level of service required for vegetation division cannot sustain the production of sandbags and vegetation management. In emergency response, the vegetation group can be called upon to do what we do in emergencies and provide bags during those events. But long term, they're growing teams right now. They're doing what vegetation should be doing. These guys are in channels and ditches, in weeds, in briar patches, in areas that the equipment can't get. They're growing tremendously in staff. We got a lot of new hires coming in. We got a new leader in vegetation. He's doing a great job with data, and I'm very excited to be bringing some of his work before you in the upcoming months. So they're out there working diligently every day, spraying, cutting, and working hard. And that's an overview of where we are. And with that, I'll entertain any questions, but we're prepared to go out for RFP at the end of this week and see what kind of prices we get firm. One, with the specification we bid out, and we hope to attract new vendors, maybe local or a parish or two away or something, that may be able to get us a better price or even better production. So with that, that's kind of what I have about where we are in general, and just entertain any questions you guys may have.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Chair. So the last 2 years, we've had record number of rain, record number of storms in 2020, record number of rain in 2021, on top with COVID. Just decimated our crews. cost us time. So I tasked Johan, which is our new vegetation director, Johan, this is the year to make it happen. Now, what do you need from me? How can I get you to achieve that we can ensure everything gets cut and we don't leave one ditch unattended to? He said, get my guys out of sandbags. I said, okay. So that began that conversation of, and you saw in the photos what they've been doing for January and how much work they've been getting done. We have outer parish residents because we're one of the few parishes that provide this service. We got Iberville, we got we got all of them. There's no separate one, there's no particular one. They're all coming, and they're all getting pre-sandbags from us. Okay, we're supplying to the whole region because we're producing 160,000, which is an insane amount, to be honest. At $5, in-house cost is $800,000 we're spending in pre-sandbag. No other parish does this. The question is, and hope for conversation purposes, how many pre-sandbags would y'all like to supply to our residents? We can have, not 10,000 in each, but with the loaded sand and so many, and then a secure location at Lamar Dixon for the rest, so that they have to show an ID. We make sure they're our resident. So there will be some loss in the sink cans from other people from other parishes coming to utilize our services. There are some in-house companies that would like to bid. They've expressed their interest. Obviously, this is going to depend on price and service, outlining those. But is it 100,000? Is it 125? Or is it 160? How much are we willing to spend on annual? And then my suggestion would be whatever that number. That's it for the year. We encourage our residents to keep those sandbags throughout the seasons and not dump them in their flower beds and then come back for another round the next storm. And we do loose sand in bags after that. And so that we have a set price every year, our expectations are known, and we do our best to ensure that our residents are getting our sandbags and the help they need to keep themselves protected. So looking forward to your input, but this is a critical item here. This is one that we desperately need to get to and get to soon, because hurricane and springtime showers are coming and hurricane season's coming, and we want to get on the ball with this. So I appreciate the opportunity to comment. Thank you.
Ms. Casso.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Ron, very much. I'm not sure what the magic number is, how many we need, but I do know this, that I've been at those sea cans, and we need enough to take care, and maybe we need to stipulate that you get those pre-bag sand bags if you are elderly, disabled. Otherwise, here's some shovels and some bags. And because I've been there when I've seen a little old lady that I will one day be myself, unable to put sandbags in the back of her little car. And so to me, that ought to be, those already bagged, we should realistically expect that those go to those who cannot bag for themselves. And I don't think that's unreasonable. And then certainly we need to engage the sheriff in order to get our emergency supply back up as quickly as possible. I'd love to see us engage with APSO and get those guys here helping us bring that emergency level up to whatever we decide it's going to be. But I don't see any reason why we can't put some guidelines around those bags. And, my husband, we were there trying to get sandbags the last flood, and there were young people out there who had to help us because there was no way in the world we could. McCoy and I, after we got a little tired, it took both of us to pack sandbag, and so you had young people that started offering their backs to get us loaded, but I see that as a problem. I don't know. don't know where to shut up on this, but it's,
No, I think you brought up some good
it's kind
recommendations.
of
and some good
open-ended,
comments.
and sometimes you don't know how to stop, but we need to prioritize who gets those bags.
Well, I would highly suggest to the residents, come up with a backup plan now.
Yeah.
If you need to sandbag, we will do what we can as a parish, but we were asking you to, if you did get inventory, like the President said, hold on to it. That's one of the reasons for the enhanced specifications of UV protection. The bags will last hopefully through the season and not rot out and tear and all those things. So hopefully we can advertise that, get buy-in from the public to not have to go every time we open.
Mr. Lawler.
Yeah, Ron, you hit actually on one of my last ideas that I had on there, but I'm going out of order here. So I'll go to that first. Could we consider putting out a call now to the public? Because I think the people that use sandbags use them every year. It's the same people over and over again. Putting out a call now saying, hey, let us know if you use sandbags the last 2 years. And as we start making them to help us with some of the storage issues, we can say, look, we're going to have them ready. You come get them. You keep them for the year, but you will have them before hurricane season if the need comes. And I would hope that some people would be proactive and say, you know what, I'm going to go get my sandbags now. So they're picking up sandbags in March and February and April before hurricane season, and there's not this big rush at that time. So that's one idea. One of the questions I have is how many, you may not know this, so you don't have to answer the question now, how many total sandbags did we use in Ida, or the equivalent in
I would say in
cubic yards?
2021, I would not be scared to say we put out 800,000.
800,000.
We loaded those sea cans pretty much nonstop. And in 2021 wasn't much better, and on top of it, COVID hitting us, and vegetation really took a hit.
No, I agree. And that's why I was looking at I don't think we need 800,000 because I can tell you I delivered sandbags to some of the same people multiple times last year. I was like, really? You didn't save these? You're killing me here.
Right.
But, I think there's opportunity. Maybe we store more. We figure out ways to store more. And I know y'all looking at Lamar Dixon. So one of my thoughts on that was also, we have a lot of EADC condemned sites that are flood condemned that we can't use. We could put storage containers. I know we have one down on, it's down by Camp Drive. It's not on Camp Drive, but there's another one right off of it. We put equipment sometimes. I know the area floods, but if we could store some containers there and then get them when we need them before storms coming, that would be a big storage space. We could probably store.
I think that the site and logistics part of it, Aaron, is not so much the issue. It's the buying of the front end. I would love to go ahead and get $3 million worth over here now. And that way I'm ahead of a storm that much. But just like that, I'll be coming back saying $3 million's gone.
No, I agree.
And so that's what I'm saying. We need to develop that metrics to understand how much are we going to provide annually. I think I need to know that for is how much labor and logistics I need to plan for how much we're going to offer. And so I think that there may be some more discussion needs to be had, but that's really the driving factor.
I think Terry was right, though. We got to, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
It's okay.
No, I apologize. You go ahead.
You're good. I just think that's the biggest thing is how much money are we going to allocate to this? That's going to tell me how much service I can provide. And then from that, I think you're looking at $1 million minimum and possibly more, but that needs to be decided, and then that'll tell us in the administration how much we need to get, but also how do we train the public and who gets them.
I think that's very important. I think that's what Councilwoman Cazzo was saying, is that we really have to put the message out there that if you're able-bodied, dig your own sandbags, save your sandbags, all of that. The other question that was kind of hit upon was inmates. But have we looked at even other parishes? East Baton Rouge Parish has a larger inmate population. Everybody's looking for money nowadays. Every jail, every sheriff. Have we talked to them about possibly using their inmates at a lower rate? Just an idea.
I've reached out to sheriff myself, and he has never turned down assistance. He was always here to help, but one thing he does not want to do, and I don't want to speak for him, I don't like going down this lane and staying in my lane, but I have talked to him about it. He doesn't want to own the whole inventory. He don't want to be responsible for the residents getting their bags.
Oh, I agree.
So I think that's kind of where it's like I was told you earlier, when that light switch flips and we go in emergency mode, we're all gonna go pitch in and do what we can throughout the event, but it does not solve the problem of the front-end inventory. And I don't think the sheriff wants to be the owner of that and have that responsibility. He's got another responsibility.
But my thought is other sheriffs may with a larger population. Right now, they have, Ascension Parish has a smaller inmate population than East Baton Rouge Parish does, just based on size.
Okay.
They may be willing, I'm sure we could pay inmates a little bit less than general laborers, and we may be able to get our front end sandbags and all that. So I would reach out there even, I don't know what the cost would be to go down to truck it from Orleans Parish or Jefferson Parish to larger population bases. Just an idea there. It's a terrible problem. The one last thing I was thinking of, and this is, probably have to be done at the end of next season, is see if we can really map out exactly where people are using sandbags, and if we could get really in detail, and it sounds strange, but figure out how many they're using. Because that may really help us identify where the problems are, where we can get them, and have a contact base of every house that's using sandbags. We can call them ahead of time. And we can send them, have some sort of email thing saying, in April, next year, come get your sandbags. You needed this many last year, come get them, so we can get ahead of the game on that. Just brainstorming here, man.
Yep.
Mr. Cagnolati.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ron, you'd mentioned about going out for RFQs with
Yes, sir.
private sector vendors. In the scope, are we asking them to have the bags delivered whole, or are they going to use our machines and we provide the sand and the bags? Or
no,
how's that scope written? I'm just
The
curious.
scope is written that when I get an order, they bring them packaged in those sacks that I can actually handle with equipment, and they're ready to go in storage. And so in the scope of delivery sites, we put Lamar Dixon, the 16 C cans, but not limited to. So this would be a parish-wide delivery ability. I envision that if we get into the fact of actually doing this to a magnitude, we have equipment and trailers now that we'll be able to use to mobilize and transport these throughout the parish. But, if this thing goes long-term, I'm looking at more like one of these lumber trucks, like Lowe's has with a forklift on the back of it, and having them, that's what they do, is roll out sandbags. If we get to that magnitude, it might be a equipment that we have to put in the budget to purchase. But it's all scoped out to function. It's a matter of how much are we going to fund.
Okay.
And it's capable of funding however much you want and however many bags you want. It's just how much big of a bill do we want to pay is the big question. We have to deliver that, find out what that metric's going to be.
Mr. President?
Yeah, so some really good ideas I just wanted to touch base on, I think, going in. And I don't want to speak for the sheriff. Ron is right, it's a very dangerous thing. So I'm going to tell you what I believe our conversation was. He's willing to put a sandbag machine in the prison, in the yard. They can do them right then and there. They don't have to transport the prisoners. So that's certainly an option. I would say that's lanyard bags. I think what we're looking for is how much money are we willing to spend on orders of pre-bagged that they can deliver so that we know this is what we're going to spend every year. What are we willing to spend? Gives me a little heartburn to say $1 million. That gives me a little heartburn. But if we $350 a bag, if we can get it for around that at 100,000, talking about a reasonable amount of money there to know that okay, we can put 3,200 bags in a sea can like this. If you had all 16, you could load them twice. But I agree with Board Member Casso's comment. We do need some protections here. And if you combine having to show up at Lamar Dixon at a site, driver's license in hand, need in hand, and go with Aaron's comment and saying, hey, come early, put both of those together so that we're getting those to the people in need. We have people on site that can help the elderly, load them for them at that site. What you put in the sea cans, we take the risk of losing. Because out of parish people can come, people can load them for flower beds, they can load them up, take them, that's what's at risk. So that 3,200 is at risk. If you had 10 cans, you could load it 3 times, 16 cans, twice a year, $51,000 a pop on both those loads. So I think that's kind of what I'm hoping for is what are we willing to spend? What's the amount? And then let's get to the sheriff, let's get lanyard bags, let's add to whatever we can do on that initial order, whatever we can add in there on top of that. But what are we willing to spend up front every year before before the springtime rains, that we make sure that orders come in January and February, we have those stacked, loaded, and ready to go. So that's kind of what hopefully we can discuss on that, because we need to make an order pretty soon, and how much are we willing to spend? So that needs to really be discussed tonight on that particular item. Yes, Board Member Cassup?
I was trying to let Chairman know before I forget.
Oh, go ahead.
It's one of those moments.
It's one of those moments. So let me ask you this. What's our liability situation if we have limited access? They drive in, they're a certain age to be able to just get sandbags, and we also have an area, is it available, an area where we would just have raw sand and bags and some shovels? What's our liability there if we have people shoveling sandbags in the same barn for themselves? The young, able-bodied with their own pickup truck. And we're taking care of giving pre-bag sand to elderly.
We're kind of doing that now, Ms. Casso, on the, even though we have bag sand at all of these CCAN sites, regardless of the inventory, the first thing we do is run 2 to 3 loads of sand at every site with the bags on the ground.
I thought so.
So I think that's pretty much protocol that's there today, just less the pre-bagged bags.
Okay. But it's a little bit different having somebody out at the fire department and having somebody under a roof at Lamar Dixon, where our liability may become more of an issue. So I would just ask all these lawyers up here about that. But, to me, before I can make a decision or think about how much money am I willing to spend, I'd like to see some guidelines. And then that might make a difference in how much money we're willing to spend.
I'd like to get those to you before the next meeting so y'all can all comment on those, so we can hurry and
Great.
establish those as soon as possible on what that may look like.
Sure.
Ms. Lambert.
And I'll go ahead and take the hit on this. And look, I know they're gonna have a problem with it, but if we're gonna police this, we need more locations. And that's getting back to our volunteer fire station and our schools. That's the only place that we can put these people that they have concrete, they can drive in, we can load them. Listen, people from the north end of this parish driving all the way to Lamar Dixon, traffic all over the roads, you have a major flood going on. We can't keep people on the road all the time. We need to get them closer, and I know the volunteer fire departments, I know they have to get out on emergencies, but that we have rear access, we have a way that we can police it, but the park, it does fine, but the schools, I find at Prairieville Middle on Parker Road, you have plenty of room there, you can get the cars in and out, but this few locations is not working. We need more locations, and I'm with you on the bags. I mean, if it's a 500,000, whatever we need to get started, I mean, we need to get this started. I see the production that we're having with our vegetation now. I mean, we are definitely touching things that hadn't been cut in a while, and I'm excited about this, but we have to go back home to where we originally started, and that's the only way we're going to police all this. Thank you.
Ms. Weisbach.
Yeah, I just have, and if I missed it, because I know I stepped out for a minute, do we know what we've spent in the last 2 or 3 years on sandbags?
He's thinking roughly 700,000-800,000.
I'd say over $1 million.
It's over $1 million.
But you said, how many did you say we made last year?
800,000 at $5 a bag, figure that up.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Last year was even more, so I mean.
That's $4 million.
Yeah. I mean, but now let's say this, last year was historic, so it was astronomical, but I would say take that out of the equation, 3-4 times a year is usually a pretty good hit, you know, it's, that's about what we've been having the last 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
2 to 3 times a year minimum.
I mean, he's driving on them, so do we get reimbursed some of that from? So on all that overtime we talked about, exempt, non-exempt, like none of that's?
During the storm.
Yeah, during the state of
Yeah,
emergency.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Can we, I mean.
Like for Hurricane Ida and other items, we
Right.
turn all that in.
Yeah, so, I mean, during the storm, you probably used a lot of that to
Yeah,
replenish.
the force account labor, we try to get it back, you know, as much as we can. Turn it
No,
in.
I'm just trying to, I mean, I don't know what to spend. I mean, I'm just asking, if you got an average, I mean, we're already spending it, except we're just not cutting grass, so at some point, just propose a number, what you think you want to, I mean.
Yes. Can I answer that?
Yeah.
So if we, you know, every dollar we're spending on sandbags, which nobody else does, we're not spending money on projects to prevent flooding. So we're all have the 16 sites. That's not a problem. We put 3,200 in each can, plus loose sand, plus bags in all 16 sites. It is spread out, it's strategically spread out that way, so they don't have to all drive to Lamar-Dixon. Lamar-Dixon would be only for pre-storm validation, and so that we're having some control over a portion of the bags. And they have time, right? They're not all coming to Lamar-Dixon at the same time. They're spread out. They can come anytime during the week. And we have where we can check driver's license and at least have a portion of the bags situated. So we're not losing the flexibility of being all over the parish, but we are having some protection of some check. Because the 3,200, we just can't police. It's just impossible. We don't have the staff for it. So I think we utilize the share as much as we can. But the pre-bag, the benefit to that is that it's a set amount. It's a set that we can say, hey, Ascension Parish, we're going to do 100,000, whatever the number is, 80,000. I don't know the magic number, but that's a huge 4 million. I mean, that's staggering, right? I mean, how many projects could we utilize? I mean, the New River is 1.5 million. You know, I mean, that money can be put to some great use and some great projects that we need to fund. So, yeah, I'm not looking. $1 million gave me heartburn. But yeah, in the last 2 years, a record number of storms, record number of rainfall, COVID, everything else, you know, it's taken us for a tailspin. But yeah, you know, I'd love to see more money going into projects rather than pre-band say that nobody else does. Nobody does this because they put money in projects. So whatever that pre-bag is that we're going to give our clientele and whatever we can get lanyap from the sheriff's department or whoever, or whatever volunteers, that's all lanyap. And that's kind of what we need to decide on, because I don't want to do $4 million worth of bags again. I just don't. It's eating up a large percentage of our budget.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Mason.
I was going to ask if we can move on to the next agenda item. It's again, until we can get the guidelines that Ms. Cazzo requested, I think we can defer this to the next meeting.
Real quick, I just got a few comments on this. Well, my recommendation would be if we think we can get bags at around $3.50 a piece, and in the super sacks, you said 2,000 per can.
3,200.
Yeah. Oh, 3,200 per can.
Yeah, it'd be 16 of them per can. Yeah, 1,600, about 2,000 bags per can, 32,000 total with the 16 sites.
My recommendation would be to stock them one time, and then have the 32,000 in the super sack at Lamar-Dixon. You know, spend roughly 250,000, and give y'all the ability of a not to exceed 500,000. You know, if it comes to it, we use those. You could order another round of them and all that stuff. But I agree. So I mean, we're wasting money, but to me, vegetation is more important than sandbags. And last year, our vegetation spent half the year doing sandbags.
Absolutely.
And we've all been properly criticized over that because vegetation's fallen so far behind.
For sure.
So that's it. That's my 2 cents. Okay, moving on to item 7F, approval of contract amendment for labor purposes with United Works. That's also you, Mr. Savoy.
So, yeah, this is just an amendment to the existing contract for Lifehouse. And what we're wanting to do is move to a second crew. In your packet, you'll see the data that the work that they have performed is going very well. And with that, they have to provide transportation. And so with the existing rates that's in that contract for hourly rates of labor, looks like we can adjust that. They've negotiated with us, but we wanted to come with you guys to make sure everybody was okay with it. We're good with it. We think that it's a very valuable project, and adjusting those rates doesn't add any money to the contract. It just gives us the ability to have a second crew come on and double the production.
I have a motion by Mr. Lambert, a second by Ms. Casso. Any objections? Any questions? Hearing none. All right, item 7G, approval of task order for CSRS not to exceed $22,225 to move forward with the Muddy Creek letter of map revision application.
Yes, Chair.
We have a motion by Ms. Casso, a second by Mr. Mason. Any questions, any objection? Hearing none. Come on now. So nobody's gonna say it? God dang.